Chapter 725. Although Unchung Mutsu was depressed that he was killed, he did not suffer any losses in the city war. Although he was a guild leader with a precious body, Unchung Mutsu did not dwell too much on the issue of dying once. After being reborn in the resurrection camp, he was more composed. He continued to understand the situation on the other side through the channel, and at the same time, he learned about the status of various reinforcements. Just as he was about to leave the resurrection camp, he received an eerie system notification. He has been heavily injured and has to stop for 20 minutes. Unchung Mutsu was shocked. The players had now fully understood this penalty. When they died 5, 10, 15, and 20 times, they would be punished to stop for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and 20 minutes respectively. When they died 25 times, they would be declared completely dead and directly kicked out of the city war. Especially after the 25th death penalty was discovered, everyone began to pay attention to their own number of deaths. Those who started to fight too wildly regretted it. This incident made the players realize that they should cherish their lives at all times, even when it seemed like there was no punishment for dying. Of course, Unchung Mutsu had also sorted out his number of deaths. When the 25th death penalty was discovered, he seriously reviewed his battle history. Based on the impression that he would be punished to stop for every 5 deaths, he easily sorted out that his number of deaths at that time was 8. As a guild leader of a big guild, this result was quite impressive. Of course, this was also related to the fact that Unchung Mutsu was a warrior and liked to be at the forefront of battles. After he began to cherish his life, Unchung Mutsu had not died even once. Currently, his number of deaths remained at 8. However, at this moment, he was punished to stop for 20 minutes. This, of course, meant that his number of deaths had reached 20. The system would not cause trouble for no reason. Unchung Mutsu hurriedly looked through the system's message record. He believed that the system would at least give him a hint for such a horrifying incident. Therefore, he realized that the death notification just now was indeed different. Normally, when a player died, the system would simply say you are dead. However, just now the system added another sentence to Unchung Mutsu after the you are dead. You have received an honor kill. Honor kill. It was another new term in the city war. Unchung Mutsu did not know what this meant. He only knew that he had been suspended for 20 minutes, so this so-called honor kill was equivalent to 12 honor kills. 12. Unchung Mutsu felt that he should say at least 12. In the rules of death, the system was quite fond of the number 5. Perhaps an honor kill would mean 15 deaths instead of 12. If that was the case, it would be reasonable for him to die 23 times and receive a penalty of 20 minutes. What was worse was that he only had 2 lives left. The Unchung Mutsu felt sorrowful in his heart. He inexplicably missed the spirit Dolua, and remembered the secret of moving up, down, left, and right. He really wished he could get 30 lives for himself. An honor kill? What's going on? These murderers were still in the dark. They only thought that they had completed a mission. They did not expect this mission to have an unexpected power. After listening to the news brought back by Shi Xiaotian, they continued to be confused. This made Unchung Mutsu's death seem even more tragic. I don't know the details yet. I only know that Unchung Mutsu was suspended in the resurrection camp for 20 minutes as a penalty, Shi Xiaotian said. 20 minutes. Doesn't that mean he died more than 20 times? Brother, you said in shock. Yeah. He's a guild leader, and the guild leader of a rank 6 big guild at that. How could he die so many times? That's why this honor kill is very meaningful, Shi Xiaotian said. How did you find out about this? Sword Demon asked. Cloud Central's Muddy isn't a very meticulous person. He didn't even think about keeping the news under wraps. As soon as he found out, he went into a rage in the guild channel. Of course the news spread quickly, said Shi Xiaotian. Sword Demon understood this situation very well. In a guild, especially a big guild, there would be many enemies or spies hidden in the guild. Especially in the past, there were alt accounts in online games. This kind of seamless wind was everywhere. Now that there were no alt accounts in the parallel world, Sword Demon felt that this situation should be curbed. However, there was still a possibility that there would be some. As for how the guild leaders operated, Sword Demon had just become a guild leader, and was still thinking about it. Ha, found it! Fireball screamed and announced to everyone excitedly. You have completed an honor kill. Haha, it's me. I did it. Fireball looked through the system messages for a long time, and found a special notification. But it's still unclear. This 20 minutes is the direct punishment from the honor kill. Or is it that one honor kill is equivalent to killing several times? It directly increased the number of deaths of Unchung Mutsu to more than 20 times. Brother Yu was indeed the king of analysis. Unchung Mutsu did not think that 20 minutes was actually a punishment. He panicked and thought that he had died more than 20 times, and was approaching the end of his lifespan. How about trying to kill Unchung Mutsu again? Gu Fei suggested cruelly. I don't know if I can do it again. Sword Demon said. Gu Fei immediately broadcasted in the guild channel. Are there any girls near the guild building? Are there any girls near the guild building? Go in and see if you can get the mission to kill Unchung Mutsu. Hey. Are the girls in the guild just running errands for you? During the banquet, July had an opinion. Ever since Gu Fei became the guild leader of Purple Crystal Rebirth, he had been very active in speaking in the guild. One moment he would instruct the girls to do this, the next moment, he would instruct the girls to do that. Let's take a look on the way. Gu Fei said. July rolled her eyes and said in the guild channel. If there's anyone passing by, just take a look. If not, just ignore him. Gu Fei smiled bitterly. Women, you have to be so calculative about small things. The reborn Amethyst girls were also invited to the gathering in the tavern. However, they weren't the ones who completed the mission, so some of them were too lazy to come. July, as the guild leader, still came to the gathering. However, most of the girls were still wandering outside, so they won the chance to run errands for Gu Fei. July said to ignore those who weren't passing by, but the girls were kind. They thought that they were just passing by when they were 200 meters away. They went around to take a look and replied, Unchung Mutsu's name is no longer on the wanted list. It's really gone. Brother Yu slammed the table. Brother Yu, don't be too excited. What does this mean? Gu Fei asked. I think this means that the honor kill increased the number of deaths of Unchung Mutsu. Think about it, he died 20 times in one go. If this kind of mission can be repeated, he'll probably be able to kill Unchung Mutsu twice. That's why the system said it only once. If it's just a 20-minute penalty, it's fine. He can just assassinate him repeatedly. Brother Yu analyzed. Makes sense. Everyone nodded. Is there any news from Mudcloud Guild? Sword Demon asked Shi Xiaotian. He realized that this girl had some information channels. Perhaps it was because of her unusual connections in the circle. Not yet, Shi Xiaotian said. Go kill him. Gu Fei stood up. I like Qianli's courage to face difficulties head-on. Brother Yu praised. Then he ignored Gu Fei's suggestion and suggested to Sword Demon. This assassination is quite practical. Why don't we choose some of the smaller guilds? It'll be much easier. Let's earn some points first. The problem is that most people have received the mission to become a big guild leader. Sword Demon was depressed. I don't. Fireball raised his hand. His mission was completed. That's right. Those who have received the Unchung Mutsu mission aren't empty now. Each of us can take a small guild leader, and clear them one by one. Guild leaders with quests will definitely earn a lot. We don't have a chance to take the resurrection camp or anything, Brother Yu said. Yeah. Sword Demon nodded. He felt that Brother Yu's analysis was reasonable. He immediately turned around and asked, who received the Unchung Mutsu mission? Me. Yutian Shenming stood out. Me too. Brother Yu smiled. Seeing that everyone was looking at him meaningfully, he hurriedly explained. I didn't come up with this idea because I can complete the mission myself. Who cares, this idea was indeed a more capable job right now. Sword Demon nodded and said. I also received the Unchung Mutsu mission before. If Shi Xiaotian, Yun Xiang and Lu Xia join, we can also accept it. Brother Yu, where's your cousin? Sword Demon found that he had overlooked someone. Her? Her mother called her to eat. She went down first. Brother Yu said. The meaningful gaze came again. It's true. Brother Yu explained again. Cough, then let's go take the mission first. Pick the ones ranked lower and take it backward. Sword Demon said. Okay, let's go. Let's go and clear out the missions in our hands. Gu Fei also made arrangements. In the end, only Slim Waist Dance responded actively. The others were all staring at each other. It wasn't that easy to clear out the missions in their hands. One was against the current, and the other was Blackfinger. They were both the leaders of major guilds. With the incident with the Unchung Mutsu, it was obvious how well protected the leaders were. Who's coming with me? Gu Fei passionately encouraged everyone. Me, of course. The one who responded was Slim Waist Dance. Fireball, who supported Gu Fei a lot, went with Sword Demon to take a new mission. The others pretended to ignore it and quietly drank and chatted. You guys? Gu Fei looked at Jian Nan and the others. Since the boss said so, we'll climb a mountain of swords, dive into a pot of boiling oil, and go through water and tread on fire. Huo Renyi saw that he was called and immediately expressed his stance. You didn't force yourself, did you? Gu Fei said. Ugh, I did. The 7 of them were really honest. Go to hell. Gu Fei was helpless. He was not someone who did not know how to read the situation. It was obvious that the others did not support his decision. Only a brainless and arrogant person like Slim Waist Dance would wholeheartedly support such a decision. As for himself, Gu Fei felt that he was the strong type. Let's wait for Sword Demon and the others to come back. Let's move as a team. Strange Eye and the others expressed their opinions. All right. Gu Fei was helpless. He turned around and called Amethyst. Is there anyone who wants to go and kill people? I'll bring them. Why don't you go and die? July was a good person, but she could not stand it anymore. The defending players drank calmly in the city, while the attacking players became agitated again. When the news that Unchung Mutsu had been killed by an honor kill and was punished with a 20-minute suspension, the first person to feel nervous was Blackfinger. He did not even have the time to leave the resurrection camp after he resurrected. When he received the news, he immediately went to give it a try. Nothing happened to him, and he praised himself for being lucky. However, everyone once again recognized the dangers of 1,000 miles of drunkenness. They took the lead in giving an important speech to singing and drinking, pointing out the important policy of, if you don't destroy 1,000 miles of drunkenness, you won't have a good life. Reigning the Four Seas immediately supported them. Even Colorful Cloud Between expressed that they would actively participate in the campaign to destroy Qianli's drunkenness. At the same time, Singing When Wine didn't miss the opportunity to make an announcement, announcing to everyone that they had successfully killed 1,000 miles drunk this afternoon. At first, there was a lot of doubt, but after Singing When Wine announced their method, everyone became silent. Fuck, you guys are even more shameless than 1,000 miles drunk. How could he not die? After that, the major guilds announced a list of their opponents in the city war. With Qianli's drunkenness as the leader, Sword Demon, Yutian Shenming, Brother Yu, Wandering Swords group of 7, Shi Xiaotian, Yun Xiang, and a bunch of famous and unknown players were all revealed. Everyone was shocked by the quality of the other party's experts, and they all expressed the pressure. The major guilds once again called for everyone to put aside their differences and work together to eliminate these hidden threats that were hard to capture first. However, this was the umpteenth time Cloud City had formed an alliance. It really lacked credibility, so the guilds all chose to wait and see. And the major guilds were very determined this time. They were determined to work together and set an example. In the end, there was a conflict in the first guild leader meeting. This was because Unchung Mutsu actually didn't come to participate in person, and instead his deputy came. The deputy tactfully said that it was not convenient for Unchung Mutsu to show up at this time. Gu Xiaoshang, who originally had hoped for this cooperation, was the first to get angry. What was not convenient for him to show up? Wasn't it because he was afraid that some guilds would know that his time was approaching and take the opportunity to attack him? At this time, there was still no trust at all, and they were still on guard against each other. Gu Xiaoshang completely gave up on these guild leaders this time. Unchung Mutsu didn't dare to show up, but what about the others? Was he really planning to take advantage of the opportunity to make a sneak attack on Yunzhong Muri? Gu Xiaoshang glanced at them. She only felt that these men in front of her all had ulterior motives, and were extremely disgusting. She really regretted it. She regretted that she had already decided not to get involved with them. Why did she soften and sit together with them this time? In the end, she was so disgusted that she really wanted to slap herself. Xiaoshang, don't be anxious. We should understand Yunmu's thoughts. He definitely isn't afraid of us taking the opportunity to attack him. He's mainly worried about Qianli drunk and the others. Unsworn Sword quickly came to mediate. That Uncheng Mutsu's deputy was dumbfounded by the roar. Once he heard Unsworn Sword's explanation, he quickly added, Yes. Guild leader Gu, you're thinking too much. Yunmu didn't mean it that way. Although that was what the deputy said, his heart tightened. That was because Uncheng Mutsu really meant it when he asked him to come. Upstream was also quite unhappy with Gu Xiaoshang's repeated outbursts and disdain. In his eyes, Gu Xiaoshang was too naive. Of course, he wouldn't be like Unsworn Sword who only cared about pacifying Gu Xiaoshang. At that moment, he really couldn't hold it in anymore and said, Guild leader Gu, I'm not sure if you've heard of this saying. There are no eternal friends, only eternal interests. Of course, you don't like to hear this, but there's no helping it. The truth is just that harsh. We are competitors to begin with. We are always on guard against each other. Occasionally, we will scheme against each other. This is also the joy of our game. You think that we don't trust each other enough. We are competitors to begin with, and our cooperation is only temporary. Because we want to eliminate Qianli drunk, of course there's a limit to our trust. Furthermore, are we that close to each other? Why do you want us to trust you? I don't think it's wrong for Yunmu to not show up. We must always be on guard against others. But didn't he still ask AI Mujie to come? The cooperation is still going on. Guild leader Gu, please don't force us too much. Gu Xiaoshang was silent for half a minute. In the end he sighed and said, You have a point, but I still don't like it. My guild members won't like it either. Excuse me, Gu Xiaoshang left. Once again, Unsworn Sword didn't stop him. Everything had been said. Since Gu Xiaoshang didn't agree, there was nothing he could do to stop him. Upstream shook his head and sighed. He said to the remaining 3 representatives, Brothers, you have to perform well. At the very least, we have to get Qianli drunk a few times. We don't want to become a laughingstock again and again, right? Cut the crap. Does anyone have a plan? Black Index Finger asked. Wait, there's a huge discovery. Unsworn Sword suddenly shouted. What's going on? Camp Rebirth, the captain of the camp suddenly issued a mission. Guess what it is? Unsworn Sword said. Assassinate Qianli drunk? Everyone looked at Unsworn Sword with disdain. This question wasn't difficult at all. That's about right. But the content? Getting drunk with Qianli drunk and torturing us might be mutual. Damn it, send someone to take a look. Is there no one in the camp? Unsworn Sword said. The 3 representatives had already sent people to take a look. They had already received the news. Just like how the leaders of the 100 great thugs had appeared in the guild building in the city, the lackeys of the Sin City Lord had also appeared in the Resurrection Camp's guard captain's office. The 2 guilds, the Purple Crystal Rebirth, were extremely overpowered. Qianli Drunk is the guild leader of Amethyst Rebirth. Although everyone knew that Qianli Drunk belonged to Amethyst Rebirth, but now he was the guild leader. Very overpowered. Is this their newly established guild? Yutian Shunming and the others are probably in this guild. Their guild leader is the Sword Demon. Damn, they sure are arrogant. They used to be called overpowered, but now they're called very overpowered. Fuck. There must be a similar mission in the main city, and we're the mission targets. Yunmu was killed by an honor kill. They must have completed this mission. Unsworn Sword said. That's strange. Why didn't I get killed by an honor kill? Black Index Finger said. They can only do it one by one? Everyone guessed. Let's not think about this for now. Everyone in the guild has accepted this mission. We'll give them a tooth for a tooth. If we can kill these guys in one go and get eliminated, then our mission will be complete. The few of them felt like they could see the light. Chapter 726. Under the command of the 4 guilds, everyone from top to bottom went to the revival camp to pick up a quest. At first, everyone wanted to pick up 2 quests, but they soon realized that they could only pick up 1 person, so they split it evenly. Half of them picked up Qianli's Drunk, and the other half picked up Sword Demon. After that, all of the members were distributed to the various gates of Cloud City. Their intention was to keep an eye on them, but the city was vast, and the flames of war were incessant. It wasn't unreasonable for Gu Fei and the others to go in and out of the city. It was really difficult for them to be discovered like this, but it was still better than nothing. It was better to keep an eye on them than to wait around. Everyone, the famous military advisor, Years of Reflection, said, from what Qianli's Drunk and the others have been doing, they should continue with this type of quest. The guild leaders will be their targets, so I think it's better for everyone to stay together and not split up. It'll save more manpower. All of the guild leaders nodded. They didn't dare to neglect their own protection anymore. Now that they were going to split up, each of them had a few hundred people with them. 4 of them would take up around 1,000 or 2,000 people's time. If everyone gathered together, they could protect a guild leader's manpower as well as a few guild leaders at the same time. The manpower they saved could be used to do other things. If we're their targets, can't they set up a trap? The guild leaders discussed their next step. Is Yunmu safe enough right now? He's already been assassinated once. If he gets assassinated again, he'll be kicked out of the city battle. I think it's very likely that he'll become one of Qianli's main targets. Years of Reflection asked Cloudherder's representative Sorrowtree. It's okay. Sorrowtree replied. As for whether it was safe or not, no one could say for sure. Their opponent was Qianli's Drunk, an existence that didn't conform to the rules of the game. Normally, the guild leader would be safe, but Qianli's Drunk could turn everything into suspense. If it's convenient, we should ask Yunmu to come with us. It saves manpower and is safer, said the Reflection of the Years. If he really doesn't trust us, we can do it this way. Your Unchung Mutsu will be in charge of the defense work, and the few of us will follow you. This way, we can also save manpower. Yunmu has a lot of our own people to protect them. What's there to worry about? AI Mu felt that this was a good idea, so he immediately told the Unchung Mutsu. In reality, how could the guild leaders of these large guilds not add each other as friends? Yet they still used Aegis to pass on their messages. This was a bit like a diplomatic activity. Even if the guild leaders were proficient in the other party's language, they would still speak in their own language. Then they would pass on the message through a translator. However, when the Unchung Mutsu heard this suggestion, he immediately sneered. Our people are going to defend us? Their people went to complete the mission, and all the points fell into their hands? When AI Mu heard that there was such a plan, he felt ashamed that he was still too inexperienced and thought that this method was not bad. Then what should we do? AI Mu asked. He felt that he was in a dilemma. Let's do as they say. However, we don't need to focus on defending them. Each guild can bring around 100 people and gather together. In the end, the Unchung Mutsu still nodded. This was because he also realized that if he still chose to be isolated, it would only be a waste of manpower. In the end, he would still be at a disadvantage in terms of obtaining points. After AI Mu passed on the message to the Unchung Mutsu, the 3 guild leaders all smiled and nodded. AI Mu observed against the current's expression. He wanted to see if there would be anything strange after the guild leader saw through this guy's plan. In the end, everything was normal. Against the current did not look surprised at all. He only immediately organized his people. The 4 guild leaders arranged for a place that was flat and had a wide field of vision. They had enough manpower, so there was no need to set up any defenses or ambushes. Once they discovered their opponents in this kind of place, they could quickly organize an attack. This time, each guild leader brought 100 subordinates. After some coordination, for example, against the current side that specialized in mages, they brought more mages. Naturally, Unsworn Sword brought more archers. The imbalance between the 2 guilds due to having too many single classes would be made up for by the other 2 guilds. All in all, the class arrangement of 400 people was completely reasonable. The 3 of you. The Unchung Mutsu appeared and greeted the 3 guild leaders. Behind him was the best cleric in the guild. All right, everyone lead your brothers. We will temporarily stay here. If anything happens, we will move together and advance and retreat together. Against the current said. Okay. The four of them nodded. The strategy had been decided. Next, they could analyze some tactical details. Unsworn Sword, against the current, and Unchung Mutsu had all directly fought against Qianli's drunk. They all took out their frontline information. Unsworn Sword was still talking about Qianli's mana. In the end, against the current and Unchung Mutsu all snorted. Against the current, they had suffered a huge loss. They thought that Gu Fei would run out of mana, but in the end, who knew how many people had died? Damn, no way. He even made up for his only shortcoming? Then what other shortcoming does he have now? Unsworn Sword said. Everyone was silent. Unchung Mutsu felt that if he didn't say something, it would damage their morale, so he said, hairstyle. What? The other three didn't understand what he meant. I mean Qianli's drunk hairstyle. It's disgusting. Unchung Mutsu said. What does this have to do with his strength? Unsworn Sword asked. It doesn't, but it's a huge shortcoming. Unchung Mutsu said. Is his hairstyle ugly? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Against the current recalled. Very ugly. Unchung Mutsu said with certainty. I don't think there's anything wrong with it either. Unsworn Sword felt that Unchung Mutsu had a huge problem with his aesthetics. Cough cough. Black Index Finger coughed heavily. As one of the 4 guild leaders of Cloud City, they were discussing a man's hairstyle. Did they really have nothing to say? The other 3 realized that they had lost their composure and quickly sat up straight. Other than his hairstyle, is there any shortcoming? Unsworn Sword said. He didn't want to argue with Unchung Mutsu about Qianli's drunk hairstyle anymore. Unchung Mutsu shook his head. He couldn't think of anything. Against the current shook his head. He didn't know either. Unsworn Sword looked at Black Index Finger. Black Index Finger lowered his head. He originally wanted to say that it was a problem with his mana, but he didn't expect it to be patched already. Black Index Finger could only curse in his heart. There's nothing we can do. Looks like we can only drown him in numbers. Unsworn Sword said. The problem is, can a sea of people keep up with his movement speed? Unchung Mutsu said. We need to surround him in secret and then retreat. Against the current said. In other words, we need to know where he is before he finds us? Black Index Finger said. There was silence. Did the people who went out find anything? Unsworn Sword couldn't help but feel anxious. No, not at all. Unchung Mutsu was also quite eager for revenge. The 4 guilds each occupied a gate and monitored the movements. In order to see clearly, they didn't even hesitate to send troops to join in those unorganized and ineffective siege activities. There were already some guilds that felt like sieging a city wouldn't have any results, so they should just die 25 times. In the end, they would get as many points as they wanted. After another period of silence, Black Index Finger suddenly jumped up. There's a situation. What? The other 3 looked at him. East Gate, Qianli's drunk appeared. Black Index Finger said. And then? He killed the guild leader of Strolling in the Clouds, Cloudy Sky, then left. Black Index Finger hadn't even finished reading the report and was dumbfounded. Strolling in the Clouds, that's a level 5 guild. It's not a small one. Unchung Mutsu said. I know the guild leader, Cloudy Sky. I'll ask. Against the current said. Cloudy Sky was currently in the revival camp and felt wronged. Cloudy Sky was a girl, and it wasn't easy for her to lead the guild to level 5. The guild atmosphere was harmonious and they were like a family. Normally, she would play the game honestly, and now she was fighting the city war. Everyone's expression changed when they talked about Qianli's drunk, but Cloudy Sky didn't think that it would fall on her head. In the end, it happened. In the midst of the chaotic battle, a black figure suddenly appeared beside her. Cloudy Sky didn't know what was going on, and was stabbed several times. Then, someone beside her shouted that it was enough, and a bunch of spells fell on her head. Cloudy Sky died just like that. Before she died, she saw clearly that the person beside her had a black robe, a purple sword, and a disgusting hairstyle. Was this Qianli's drunk? Cloudy Sky had this thought when she revived in the revival camp. But the girl was very attentive. The moment she revived, she saw the system notification saying, "You died. You received an honorary kill." Cloudy Sky was shocked. This notification seemed to have happened not too long ago to the guild leader of the Shepherd of Clouds, Unchung Mutsu, and his outcome was a 20-minute penalty. Cloudy Sky tried to walk out of the revival camp, and as expected, the system notification said, 20-minute penalty. Cloudy Sky had died 5 times before. With a 20-minute penalty, it was clear that the honorary kill had brought her 15 deaths. This number that Unchung Mutsu couldn't figure out was measured by Cloudy Sky. Cloudy Sky cried. Although she understood that this was probably some sort of quest set up by the system, and that the other party had completed his duty as a city defender, she still felt wronged. At this moment, the guild members of Walking in the Clouds were also in an uproar. Their guild leader had just been killed in front of their eyes. Everything happened too quickly, and they didn't even have time to react. By the time they called for a priest, their guild leader was already dead. A guild member who had just revived saw Cloudy Sky crying in the revival camp and told everyone about it. Everyone was furious, and they all cursed at Qianli for not being a good person when he was drunk. He didn't even blink when he killed people. He was cold and merciless. His disgusting hairstyle showed that his taste was terrible. Gu Fei sneezed and used Fireball to escape. Fireball continuously praised him. "Brother Zue, well done." Gu Fei was a bit dissatisfied. He turned around and looked at Fireball. "You did it on purpose, right?" "Ah, what?" Fireball pretended to be stupid. "Picking up a girl guild leader," Gu Fei said. "How could that be? It was purely a coincidence," Fireball said. "Then you were able to recognize the target at a glance?" Gu Fei said. "It was probably intuition," Fireball said. "You bastard." Gu Fei pulled out his sword and slashed at Fireball. This brat actually dared to use his hand to tease a girl. Luckily, he was upright enough to seriously cut the girl to death. Otherwise, who knew what this brat would do? "Brother Zue, I won't do it again." Fireball was slashed by Gu Fei like a rabbit. Yin Tian was killed. Against the Current asked about the situation. He said to everyone with a heavy expression. The one who did it was drunk Qianli, and there was another person who helped him. "Yinmu, the situation seems to be similar to when you were attacked." 2 figures appeared in Unchung Mutsu's mind. One had a disgusting hairstyle, and the other was rolling around on the ground. Yin Tian was also punished to stop for 20 minutes. However, her previous death count was a total of 5, which meant that the honor kill had brought her 15 deaths. Nobody here has died more than 10 times, right? Against the Current said. "I died 10 times. Black Index Finger's expression changed. Dying 10 times meant that one more honor kill would bring him to 25, and he would be directly eliminated. Why did he die so many times? He really doesn't know how to cherish himself." Unsworn Sword sighed. He was also a warrior, but his death count was not as glorious as Unchung Mutsu and Black Index Finger. In fact, it was a blessing in disguise. After being targeted by drunk Qianli, Unsworn Sword could not relax his protection. Unchung Mutsu and Black Index Finger, who did not know that there was a limit to the number of deaths, seriously set an example. Sometimes, they would step forward and sacrifice themselves to protect their brothers, dying heroically. At this time, Unsworn Sword's arrogance and mockery caused the 2 to roll their eyes. They did not have the time to bicker with him. Unchung Mutsu had died 8 times before. With this 15, they were still 2 away from being eliminated. Black Index Finger had a good foundation, and was eliminated with 1 honor kill. Although they each brought 100 people, and everyone thought that their protection was enough, they suddenly felt a little nervous. Don't be too nervous. Maybe this honor kill doesn't count at all, and it's just a 20-minute penalty? Unsworn Sword finally had some humanity, and used a very reasonable analysis to comfort them. Against the Current side because the news he was about to announce seemed a little inhumane at this moment. "I just received news that Black Bamboo Samsara's guild leader, Dark Knight, was killed with an honor kill. The result is that he was directly eliminated from the city war." Against the Current said. "What? Unchung Mutsu and Black Index Finger, who had just been comforted, immediately stood up. Could it be that he just happened to die 24 times? Unsworn Sword's humanity became a little more considerate. I'm afraid not. Against the Current also recognized Dark Knight, and had already contacted him. Comrade Dark Knight was cursing. He had died 13 times before, and was eliminated. The system gave a clear notification, and different from normal player deaths, the system added a message for the guild leader's death. Black Bamboo Samsara has fallen into a leaderless state. This leaderless state wasn't a good thing. The guild's morale was low, and they didn't even have the strength to scold him. Based on Dark Knight's description, his death was even more straightforward than Cloudy Skies. An assassin appeared out of nowhere, and instantly killed him. The person who completed the assassin then quickly left. The entire process didn't even take 5 seconds. Apart from confirming that it was a thief, nothing else was known. Who is this? Sword Demon. Against the Current said. We've fought before, and someone reported that he has a special skill. It's very similar to Dark Knight's description, and it's also very powerful. Fuck, it's not just Qianli drunk that's crazy. Everyone was shocked. Wait, what's going on? Why are their targets all these small guilds? Unchung Mutsu said. You can't say that they're small guilds, right? Of course, the scale of Walking in the Clouds and Black Bamboo's cycle of reincarnation can't compare to ours, but they're both level 5 and have a bit of fame in Cloud Peak City. If I were to count them, I think they'd probably be in the top 100, right? So you're saying that Qianli Drunk isn't preparing to deal with us? They've all changed their targets to these guilds? Unsworn Sword said. That's really troublesome. These guilds are all fighting on their own, and they don't have any defenses. Cloudy Sky and Dark Knight were both killed in a chaotic battle with the NPCs, and they didn't even have time to react. Against the Current said. Walking in the Clouds, Black Bamboo Samsara. Who's next? Everyone was shocked. Fuck, where are the people who are living a drunken life? Did the guild leader really lose his mind and lose himself? I can't find him. Slender Waist Dance was currently roaring in the guild channel. She herself had the task of going against the Current, and there was no way to get rid of it. Therefore, like Gu Fei, she also found an assistant. She found Lower Willow, who had also come over with the Purple Crystal Rebirth. The assistant was the guild leader of the Befuddled Life and Dreams, who was out of his mind. In the end, this guild was a quest-oriented guild, and wasn't on the battlefield. The guild members scattered around to collect quests, and didn't raise any flags. Slender Waist Dance and Wuxia were like looking for a needle in a haystack. They went around the city again and again, but couldn't find anything. Apart from that, there were also Yutian Shenming, Shi Xiaotian, Brother Yu, and Yun Xiang. They all had quests on them, but their strength clearly couldn't compare to the 3 above. So each of them needed a few assistants. Among them, Imperial Sky Divine Ming was proud and arrogant, believing that he was also at the level of a freak, insisting on not having an assistant, wanting to act alone like Sword Ghoul. However, even if he had skills, he didn't have the explosive attack power of Gu Fei, Sword Demon, or Slender Waist Dance. It was no longer the age where he could be killed with a single shot. The others didn't let him be, and in the end, they still assigned him people. Shi Xiaotian formed a group with him, and took on 2 assassination quests. They also brought Luoluo, Fiercely, and Jun Rain. They were all girls, and Yutian Shenming couldn't bear to reject them. Meanwhile, Brother Yu and Yun Xiang split up Wandering Sword's group of 7, and each formed a small group to search for their target. They knew their advantage very well. Most of the enemies were focused on attacking the city, and were defenseless. As long as they found their target, they could easily kill them. Gu Fei and Sword Demon's group were relatively lucky. The target's guild was holding a conspicuous flag, and they could easily find their target and kill them. The other groups were currently painfully searching for their target, and Slender Waist Dance was the most miserable. Whenever there was a quest, they wouldn't gather on the battlefield, and if they didn't raise a flag, they really didn't know where to look. Chapter 727. The news of the 2 guild leaders being assassinated spread quickly. The 800 or so guilds in Cloud City all felt insecure, as if a knife was hanging over their heads. Previously, when they had watched Thousand Miles Drunk wreak havoc on several large guilds, they had been secretly delighted. Now that they thought back to the situation, they felt as if they were in the same situation as Thousand Miles Drunk. They felt as if it would happen to them very soon. What was even more frightening was that the bad news kept coming. After the two guild leaders, Cloud Sky and Dark Knight, were killed, while everyone was talking about it, another 3 guild leaders of level 5 guilds were killed. Just like before, the assassins left quickly after succeeding. No one had the chance to catch them. The only good news from these 3 assassinations was that the 3 guild leaders weren't declared dead like Dark Knight. The city battle quickly came to an end. The guilds that had been slaughtering each other on the battlefield all withdrew from the front lines. No one wanted to be assassinated in such a chaotic situation for no reason. In reality, everyone could see that the other party's target was only the guild leaders, so some guild leaders retreated from the front lines while their members continued to fight. Some guild leaders felt that it was embarrassing to hide alone, so they retreated with all of their members. The player army did not have much of an advantage in the first place, and now that their investment had been reduced, they were completely routed by the system guards. The battlefield quickly became desolate, and the system guards showed off their might. The players rushed out of the revival camp, but when they saw the pitiful number of people around them, they all hesitated. There's no way to fight. Many players found worthless things, and threw them to express their anger. Qianli must be eliminated once he's drunk. Someone said. If Qianli is not eliminated once he's drunk, there will never be peace in the city war. As they spoke, another news came. The 5th guild leader had died, but this one was as lucky as Black Index Finger. He actually didn't get an honor kill, but a single death, so he didn't get the sharp penalty of dying 15 times. At this moment he was at the resurrection camp, thanking the heavens for his blessings. Gu Fei was also human. He would make mistakes, especially when his opponent was in the middle of a battle. He didn't know how much health he had. This time he didn't control his damage very well. His hand was too heavy, and he killed his opponent. Now his and Fireball's 2-man party had come to a standstill. Fireball still had this person's quest on him, and if he wanted to complete it, he still had to rush to the resurrection camp. However, at this time, the city war had once again come to a standstill. A large number of players had retreated from the battlefield and gathered outside the battlefield. Gu Fei and Fireball had found an opportunity during this time. At this time, the two of them were especially eye-catching on the plains of the battlefield because there were almost no players around. I didn't expect it to affect me so quickly. Brother Yu and the others looked at the empty battlefield and were dumbfounded. Everyone had completed a round of missions and were now searching for a new target. They were the only ones left in the world. I thought we could play like this for a while. Yutian Shenming felt regretful. It wasn't easy for him to team up with a few girls for a mission. He had just finished one, and before he could find the next one, the enemies had all retreated. So far, each group has killed one. Not bad. Sword Demon gave a positive review. Where is this bastard that's out of his mind? In the OP channel, Slender Waist Dance's howls were still echoing. She still hadn't found the target. Let's go back to the city first? Right now we seem to be a bit eye-catching. Brother Yu suggested. As there was no chaotic battle on the battlefield, the few players were still very eye-catching. Okay everyone, let's go back to the city first. Under Sword Demon's command, everyone returned to the city. Only Slender Waist Dance and Under Willow were still wandering outside. At the east gate, everyone gathered and discussed what to do next. At the resurrection camp outside the east gate, a large number of guild leaders had also gathered here to discuss how to deal with Qianli and the others. Previously, when Qianli was only messing around everywhere when he was drunk, no one wanted to cause trouble. But now, they realized that even if they didn't cause trouble, Qianli would come looking for them when he was drunk. No one wanted to sit around and wait for death. Honor kills are actually like this. The 4 major guilds seized this opportunity and immediately publicized it. Immediately, a long line formed in front of the garrison captains of the various camps. All the players came to receive the mission to kill Qianli's drunk and sword demon. But after receiving the mission, everyone didn't know what to do. The mission didn't give any coordinates, and many people didn't even know who Qianli's drunk and sword demon were. The enemy was in the dark, and they were out in the open. This feeling was really annoying. Everyone could only stare at the city gates with their eyes wide open. When someone came out, they would be nervous and on guard. After a long time, everyone was very dissatisfied. Who is this guy? He's always carrying a basket to pick up stones. He's pretending to be relaxed as if he's mocking us. Who knows? Maybe he's Qianli's drunk in disguise. How annoying. Have you seen Qianli's drunk before? No you. Nope, I heard he's black cloak and purple sword. Then what if he changes his equipment? That I don't know. When the time comes, he'll attack wherever he points. Discussions were everywhere, but there was no concrete plan. The leaders of the 4 major guilds saw that this couldn't go on. Everyone stopped attacking the city, but Qianli's drunk and the others didn't show up either. Were they just going to stay outside the city and do these disgusting missions? More than 800 guilds, hundreds of thousands of players, were scared off by a few dozen people and didn't dare to attack the city? If this got out, wouldn't Cloud City be seen as the most useless and trashiest main city? Players had a strong sense of honor for the main city, and no one could tolerate this kind of ending. The leader of the 4 major guilds, against the current, made a final speech to wine and singing. He hoped that all the guilds would unite and continue to attack the city. The task of protecting the guild leaders could be handed over to the 4 major guilds' army of 400. Against the current promised the guild leaders that this army of 400 was definitely the most elite team in Cloud City at the moment. It was made up of the elites of the 4 major guilds. Some of the guild leaders of smaller guilds thought that even thousands of people in the big guilds couldn't do anything to Qianli's drunk. If they were really unlucky and met him, they wouldn't be his opponent. They could only try their luck and play hide and seek. At this time, after Against the Current released this news, many guild leaders were very supportive and came to report and accept protection. Against the Current further expanded the publicity, emphasizing that accepting protection as a group could save a lot of manpower. This naturally made a lot of sense. In the end, of the more than 800 guilds participating in the city war in Cloud City, about 95% of the guilds decided to accept Against the Current's proposal. More than 700 guild leaders all rushed to the place where Against the Current and the others were stationed. In the end, there were a total of 764 guild leaders, but they were only responsible for protecting 400 people. Of course, these 400 people were absolute elites. Among the 764 guild leaders, there were quite a few experts, but there were also a lot of noobs. A few trash guild leaders around level 30 were also mixed in. Against the Current treated all of them equally, but in their hearts, everyone felt that these guild leaders were taking refuge. They thought too highly of themselves. When Qianli made his move, he never looked for weak opponents. This wasn't the first guild leader gathering, but this time it was much more complete than the first. At this time, the Cloud Suburb farm was filled with guild leaders. It was a spectacular sight. We already have so many guild leaders. If we gather them together, they'll be a force to be reckoned with. Do you think there's a need to leave 400 people to protect us? Unsworn Sword said. Of course there's a need. Against the Current said. These are all masters who command others. Now that they're all gathered together and listening to someone else's command, I doubt they'll be able to coordinate well. Moreover, they're all chosen according to the guild leader, not according to their class. There doesn't seem to be any balance. I looked around just now. There are very few clerics among the guild leaders. There are a lot of warriors. Veterans of the game understood this phenomenon very well. There was a very classic iron triangle combination that had been used in the online gaming world for many years. Even in today's parallel world, players would sometimes use this combination to fight against the system. In this kind of combination where warrior, mage, and cleric was the foundation of the team's survival, the warrior as the main tank was the foundation of the team's survival. This kind of core character could easily become the leader of a team. Once the guild was established, they would naturally become the guild leader. But with 400 people taking care of 700 people, I don't think we'll be able to handle it. The guild leaders should organize themselves so that if anything happens, they can become a fighting force. Against the current continued. Everyone nodded and immediately made this suggestion to the guild leaders democratically. When the guild leaders gathered together, they realized that there were so many guild leaders. They were already very bold. At this time, there were quite a few people who suggested that the 4 major guilds withdraw the 400 people and let them protect themselves. In the end, Against the Current spent a lot of time explaining that the guild leaders didn't have class balance. As for everyone being bosses, it would be difficult for them to cooperate with each other. Against the Current naturally couldn't say such unpleasant words to the public. Thus, the guild leaders started to discuss Fiercely's team again. At the same time, the guild members under the guild leaders started to move again and continued to attack the city. After fighting for so long, the players also realized that the guards of the system could be replenished after they died. So as long as they continued to wear down the guards, they could still forcefully win the city war. However, the troublemakers like Qianli's drunk had to be eradicated. At this time, the disadvantage of the guilds with the dragon without a leader attribute was revealed. After entering this state, their guild channel was actually blocked. Without the guild channel, they could only form their own teams to fight. Communication was inconvenient, causing the cooperation and assistance between each other to become very low. During this period of time, Gu Fei and the others didn't move out of the city, but they clearly knew what was happening outside the city. With more than 700 guild leaders gathered together, it was easy to gather information about such a big event. Slender Waist Dance and Lower Willow were there to observe. Faced with such a situation, Slender Waist Dance didn't say anything, but in her heart, she gave up on the idea of taking advantage of the chaos to find the sane person and kill him. At this time, Cloud Suburb Farm was under strict protection. 400 players had completely sealed off the area, and the guild leaders were all gathered in the circle. No one went out. Those who wanted to enter the circle had to go through an extremely strict inspection. Slender Waist Dance and Lower Willow didn't know what the inspection was about, but they were stopped and questioned. It was obvious that they couldn't sneak in. The person asked for their name and guild, and then they checked with the guild leader. It's very convenient to do quests now because all the guild leaders are in this position. Slender Waist Dance and Lower Willow turned into 2 scouts and reported the situation to the organization. But it's very difficult to complete the quest because all the guild leaders are in captivity. They even have to be inspected when they go in and out. Right now, even the Moonball isn't as troublesome as them. Slender Waist Dance said, "You've been to the moon before?" Brother Yu asked. "I went once when I was young. It was very boring. I don't recommend it." Slender Waist Dance said. Everyone was silent. Slender Waist Dance really was a super rich person. She had even experienced such an extravagant trip to the moon. This is a chance to catch them all in one fell swoop. Gu Fei said. No one paid attention to him. A normal player's brain wouldn't call this a chance. Everyone, let's think together. What can we use in this situation? Sword Demon called on everyone to work together. I don't think we can continue with the quest to assassinate the guild leader for now. Brother Yu said. Of course. Why don't we see if there are any big quests in the city? Brother Yu suggested. Okay. June Rain strongly supported. Yeah, that's the only way. Qianli, what do you think? Sword Demon said. Catch them all in one fell swoop. Meeting dismissed. Sword Demon announced. Fuck. Gu Fei was depressed. You can go and research your quest too. Sword Demon said. Yinjiao Lakeside huh? Gu Fei muttered to himself. Strange pupil left very quickly. This quest has been going on for a long time. It's a two-way quest. I think it'll be a huge breakthrough in the city war. Sword Demon said. Okay, I'll go take a look. Does anyone want to go with me? Gu Fei called. Because everyone seriously suspected that Gu Fei was kidnapping people to kill people, no one responded. In the end, only Fireball was left. Determined, she said. Brother Zue, I'll go with you. Okay. Gu Fei had no choice but to accept this choice. Should we meet up with Slender Waist Dance and the others when we leave the city? Fireball asked. Why? Yunjiao Lakeside, Brother Zue. If we don't bring the girls, we'll cause a misunderstanding. It's disgusting. Fireball said. Don't worry. If there's a misunderstanding, I'll kill you. That way, there won't be any misunderstanding, Gu Fei said. Brother Zui, I was wrong. Tears streamed down Fireball's face. The battle outside the city started again. The two changed their clothes and sneaked out of the city. The others had already scattered to look for quests. Sword Demon was about to do the same when he saw Little Ray walking back from outside the city with a big basket on his back. Little Ray, Sword Demon called out. They're fighting again. Xiaolei was quite helpless. His mission to clean up the battlefield was naturally not to be carried out once the battle broke out. However, as soon as it stopped, he would immediately be assigned to it. Xiaolei felt that he was not from the trade association, but from the sanitation department. You should look for other quests too, Sword Demon said. Okay, I'll look for them. I'll take a break first. You're busy. Little Ray said goodbye to Sword Demon. After handing in the quest, he crawled back to his tavern. Little Ray poured himself a glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. After smacking his lips twice, he felt that it was a bit lacking. So he went back to the wine cabinet to prepare his own concoction. Suddenly, he heard the door next to him open with a creak. Who is it? Little Ray didn't turn around. At this time, the customers who could come to his tavern were the ones from before. He roughly introduced them by name. It's me, Tonic Wine, the newcomer said. Little Ray was shocked. What a familiar voice and words. He quickly turned around and saw a person walk in from outside the door. The person randomly found a table and sat down. He took out a bunch of empty bottles and threw them on the table. He knocked on the table and said, "Hurry up, I'm in a hurry." Why are you here? Little Ray was surprised. Why can't I come? Han Family Young Master asked. City War. Little Ray's eyes widened. Neutral players can enter and leave the main city at will. I should have noticed this a long time ago. Han Family Young Master said. You're a neutral player? Little Ray asked. Otherwise, why would I be sitting here? Han Family Young Master said. Hurry up and bring the wine. Coming. I have a new concoction of wine. Little Ray was excited. He finally had a soulmate. As he said this, he quickly carried out a large bucket and poured a large glass for Han Family Young Master. Try it first. Han Family Young Master's eyes lit up when he heard that there was a new wine. He quickly came over. Little Ray picked up the glass as soon as he finished pouring it. He sniffed and found that it was very different from the wine in the game. He then took a deep sip. How is it? Little Ray was a bit nervous. It's so strong. Han Family Young Master frowned. There's actually such strong wine in the game. If that idiot Deepwater came, he would be drunk for a day just by smelling it. Haha, isn't it exciting? Little Ray said. Exciting. But let's do it the same way for now. I need to keep a clear head right now. Han Family Young Master said. Clear head? Little Ray didn't understand. City War brother. Han Family Young Master said. Aren't you a neutral player? Little Ray said. That's just the identity given by the system. Han Family Young Master said. Then which side are you on? Little Ray said. My side. Han Family Young Master said. Little Ray became more and more confused as he listened. He still carried a pile of wine for Han Family Young Master and asked, Then do you need to keep it a secret from Qianli and Sword Demon that you're entering the city? Whatever. Han Family Young Master threw down the wine money and left. How was it? What did you find out? As soon as Han Family Young Master left the tavern, someone immediately came up to him and asked, Find out. Find out what? Han Family Young Master didn't understand. Aren't you here to find out information? Who said so? I'm here to buy wine. Fuck. Then you said you had to go to a very important place to do something very important after entering the main city. The other person was angry. Yeah, to buy wine. To buy wine. Isn't there a tavern just after entering the city? I'm used to it. Han Family Young Master didn't care. The other person obviously wanted to strangle Han Family Young Master to death. Relax, Brother Moonless. Didn't we successfully enter the city? Han Family Young Master said. Then what do we do next? Find Qianli and get drunk and get rid of them? Moonless asked. His full ID was Moonless Aqua. He was one of the core members of Rosy Clouds. This time, he was ordered to lead a group of guild players to temporarily leave the guild. Together with Han Family Young Master, they sneaked into the main city of the clouds as a neutral player. Butterfly Knot. The counterattack from Han Family Young Master is about to begin. Chapter 728. You're oversimplifying things, the Han Family Young Master said as he opened a new bottle of wine and handed it to Shui Wuyue. Shui Wuyue was about to refuse, but when he took a closer look he realized that the wine that the Han Family Young Master handed him was actually the legendary 200 renminbi. Although the price of wine had been reduced after the Great Economic Adjustment, and the legendary 200 renminbi had been reduced to 20 renminbi, no one would waste money on such things now. So Shui Wuyue decided to cherish this opportunity, and took the wine that the Han Family Young Master handed him. Then he saw that the Han Family Young Master had also opened a bottle for himself. There were quite a few of his brothers from Rosy Clouds around them, and they all looked at him greedily. The Han Family Young Master glanced at everyone. Everyone wants to drink? Everyone nodded vigorously. The Han Family Young Master stood to the side, and the door of the tavern lit up. Go in and buy it yourselves. Everyone immediately stopped drinking, and silently stood to the side. Shui Wuyue saw that he had wine to drink, and his brothers didn't, and felt a little embarrassed. However, he only had one bottle in his hand, and it was impossible for him to share it with hundreds of people. It was even more impossible for him to treat them to a drink. Since it was impossible either way, Shui Wuyue didn't feel conflicted anymore, and continued to drink as he asked, "Why do I think it's too simple? Didn't we already test it when we entered the city? Although the neutral system guards won't actively attack us, as long as we create even the slightest bit of hatred towards them, they'll kill us to the end. Right now we're in the city, and although there are many of us, we're still in their territory. Guards, do you see that?" The Han Family Young Master pointed at a group of system guards who had just passed through the street in front of them, and continued, "They're now the defenders of the city, so if we attack them, the system will definitely treat it as a form of hatred, and will also attack us. So, don't think that just because we have more people, we'll be able to defeat them." "You mean we have to find a place where there aren't any system guards? That's a bit difficult." Shui Wuyue frowned. During this city war, the security in the city seemed to be even tighter than usual. The group of people stopped outside the tavern for a while, and saw 4 groups of guards. One of them walked past them, and many people subconsciously became nervous. Fortunately, the system guards weren't smart enough to treat their nervous expressions as aggro. "So we have to think of something," said the Han Family Young Master. "What method?" Shui Wuyue asked. "Don't tell me you haven't heard of the guy in this pub?" Han Family Young Master asked. "Little Ray? Of course I have," Shui Wuyue said. "Obviously he's definitely a faction player, and I don't think he joined Qianli's group," Han Family Young Master said. "Oh, and then?" Shui Wuyue asked. Then, if he establishes a guild and we join it, wouldn't it be a guild that defends the city? Wouldn't we be able to summon those bastards in the city?" Han Tianyu asked. "That's right." This? Shui Wuyue didn't think there would be such a move. "Has he already agreed?" Shui Wuyue asked the Han Family Young Master. "Not yet, but I don't think it's a big problem. I came out first to let you guys know, and use this time to pick some people." Han Family Young Master said. "Pick people? Choose 50 people. Genius, do you think we can all join a newly created guild?" The Han Family Young Master said. "That's right." Oh, Shui Wuyue hurriedly nodded. "We don't want priests or knights." Han Family Young Master was just about to enter the door, when he suddenly remembered something and stopped to say, "Why is that?" Shui Wuyue was startled. Both sides are city defense players, and if it's a PK, the system guards definitely won't be able to determine aggro. If priests and knights only cast some support skills, they will still help the city defense side. I think the system still won't be able to determine aggro, so priests and knights don't need to occupy the slots. Han Family Young Master nodded his head in agreement, and then entered Little Ray's bar. Little Ray was leaning against the liquor cabinet, continuing to mix his drink. Suddenly, there was a sound from the door. Looking up, he saw Han family young master had returned. For a moment he didn't know why, and looked at him blankly. Han family young master could determine with certainty that little Ray was a faction player. And it was also thanks to the binoculars that he repeatedly borrowed from the boundless wilderness. Little Ray had come out to pick up gravel many times when the city war was paused. Other people couldn't tell who he was because they were too far away, but Han family young master could recognize that this was Little Ray. No one would go down to the city wall to pick up stones for no reason. There was no doubt that Little Ray was on a quest. If he was just a neutral player who sneaked into the main city, he wouldn't be able to receive a quest. Therefore, it was obvious that Little Ray was also a faction player. Just like Gu Fei and Sword Demon, he was assigned to the city defense side from the very beginning. Before Gu Fei's guild was established, Little Ray was picking up stones. After Gu Fei's guild was established, he was still picking up stones. From this, Han family young master further deduced that Little Ray didn't join Gu Fei's guild. Seeing that Little Ray was looking at him blankly, Han family young master simply went straight to the point. Little Ray, which faction are you in? Commercial Trade Alliance. Little Ray said. I think you also want to get some points from the city war, so that you can get a share of the power distribution in the future. This will be more beneficial to your business in the future, right? Han family young master asked. Yes. Little Ray was a little helpless. Originally, he had made an appointment with a group of people who wanted to work together to fight for some points, but now they were far apart. He was working hard on his side, but he didn't know if the points would be the same for the defending side and the attacking side. But how many points can you earn by going out again and again to move stones? The Han family's young master laughed. There's no way. Little Ray sighed. Actually, there's a way. Han family young master said. What way? Little Ray asked. Just like Qianli and the others, form a guild. Han family young master said. Form a guild? Little Ray was startled. That's right. The point system for the city war is based on guilds. Right now you're all by yourself. No matter how hard you try, do you think you can win against a 50-man guild? Han family's young master asked. We also have some people. Little Ray said. The Han clan's young master was startled. Who? Before the city war, we formed a guild together, but I was thrown into the city, and now I can't contact them. Little Ray said gloomily. Han family young master let out a sigh of relief. Then it's even more troublesome. They are attacking the city, and you are defending the city. You're basically opposing each other. How will the points you earn be converted? Add them together? Or cancel them out? Obviously, canceling out was more reasonable. Little Ray had been worried about this, but after listening to Han family young master's words, he thought quickly. You mean we should dissolve the guild now, and then I'll be the president to form a new guild, so that at least our efforts won't cancel each other out? Smart. Han family young master said. But I can't contact them at all. Little Ray was distressed. That's why I said, your intelligence is not up to standard. Han family young master said as he sent out the message. The door of the tavern was immediately pushed open, and a group of fully armed guys who didn't look like business players filed in. Little Ray was dumbfounded, and heard Han family young master say, Look, I've already prepared it for you. Little Ray wasn't stupid. How could he not see the signs? He smiled bitterly. Did you prepare it for me, or did I, a ready-made faction player, prepare it for you? Whatever it is. Anyway, the people here are enough for you to establish a small guild. Han family young master said. But of course, you won't help me with the quest. Little Ray said. Of course, you still have to do your own things. But after we finish our business, we'll leave the guild, and then we'll be neutral again. Once we leave the city, we can help you contact your friends. When they disband the guild and enter the city, they can continue to build your city defense guild with you. How about it? Han family young master said. Sounds good. But they've been operating outside the city for more than a day. Little Ray was still hesitant. You obviously don't understand the situation outside the city. Quests are more popular than bosses. With your small group of business players, what kind of quests do you think you can get? You're suitable to do quests in such a peaceful and undisturbed environment in the main city. This will definitely move them. Even if they can't, we'll leave some people here to keep your guild from disbanding. Even if we can't help you with your quests, we can still make sure your hard work doesn't go to waste. Isn't that good? Han family young master said. Little Ray didn't reply immediately. After carefully thinking it over, he finally nodded. All right. You've got guts. Then take us to establish your guild now. Han family young master said. Xiaolei nodded his head and stepped forward. He then casually asked, what do you want to do with this guild? What do you think? Han family young master smiled. I think I should stop guessing. Xiaolei wiped the sweat off his forehead. Naturally, he had already guessed that this young master from the Han family was going to challenge Thousand Li Drunk's group. Both sides were characters that were not to be trifled with. Being stuck in the middle, the wisest choice was to feign ignorance and not offend either side. It's a bit far from the guild building. What if we bump into someone? Waterless Moon asked. We'll bump into them sooner or later. We don't need to worry about it right now. Han family young master didn't care. If we don't bump into them, can't we catch them off guard? Waterless Moon felt a bit of regret. He felt that they should try to move as stealthily as possible. What do you mean by catching them off guard? If you go out and casually kill one of them, they'll all know that there's a problem. Actually, compared to them, what do you think is our biggest disadvantage? Han family young master said. Not the defending players? Waterless Moon said. Aren't we about to be? Han family young master said. Ugh, there's still a disadvantage like this? Waterless Moon felt that they had the advantage in numbers. 50 people as the main attacker, priests and knights as support, and the others were just bluffing. It was quite a good idea. We have a total of 300 people. Let me ask you, do you know each other? Han family young master said. Of course we don't. Waterless Moon blurted out. That's our disadvantage. All of their combat members know each other. So if you have the time to worry about that, why don't you use this time to get to know each other? Han family young master said in a bad mood. Whether or not they knew each other was a big problem in the parallel world. In previous games, the guild name would appear above the opponent's head. The opponent's name would be red, and the guild's name would be blue. But in the parallel world, the system was so stingy that it only gave a guild emblem as a symbol. Even in a group fight, the guild emblem had to be pointed at someone's chest. If they really met a guild like Reborn Amethyst, no matter who won or lost, they wouldn't be able to escape the crime of being a pervert. Of course, this crime of being a pervert was also intentional. If the opponent was Amethyst, a girl's face would be much easier to recognize than the emblem. Staring at someone's chest to recognize the emblem was definitely an excuse. Han family young master's words were reasonable, and Waterless Moon couldn't refute him. He hurriedly organized everyone to get to know each other. Come to think of it, they were all from the same guild, but they didn't know each other. This was quite an awkward situation. The 300 people were now in a mess. On average, everyone knew a third, heard of a third, and had no idea who the other third were. In the process of getting to know each other, they even said, "Oh, it's you. So you're also from our guild. I've never seen you wear an emblem before." Haha, I don't usually wear it. It was easier said than done to recognize 100 people in an instant. Almost none of the 300 people present could do it. Waterless Moon himself also had a hard time recognizing people, but when he saw Han family young master and Little Ray walking in front of him, he felt indignant. When it came to not knowing people, he was the one who didn't know the most. Letting everyone suffer here, he was actually quite relaxed. Waterless Moon thought about it and hurriedly caught up to Han family young master. I say, you don't know many people yourself, right? Come, let's get to know each other. I'm different. Han family young master said. How so? First, I'm handsome enough. Those who see me will immediately recognize me. If you don't believe me, ask these 300 people. Is there anyone who doesn't know me? Han family young master said. Although Waterless Moon really wanted to beat someone up, he had to admit that he himself had only seen Han family young master once, and could never forget him. He believed that these 300 people were the same, so what he said was true. So he gritted his teeth and said, I'm not letting everyone know you. I'm letting you know everyone. Hee hee, this is the second point. Although I don't know you, I know all of our opponents. Conversely, those I don't know are my own people. How about it? Are you convinced now? Han family young master said and continued on his way. Mary's next door. Waterless moon coughed up blood alone. After all, the main city was very big, and Amethyst's reincarnation was very overpowered. There really weren't many people around. After the 300 people arrived at the guild building, they actually didn't meet a single person. Those who want to join my guild, come over here. Little Ray called out. 50 of the most valiant men among the 300 people came out and followed Little Ray into the guild building. Everything happened very quickly. Little Ray's guild was called Little Ray's Bar, and the guild emblem was his tavern's signboard. The players in between the rosy clouds felt a little awkward wearing such a badge in their guild, especially when they saw the young master of the House of Han. There seemed to be a hint of mockery in his eyes, and everyone suspected that they had been set up by him. However, no matter how they thought about it, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with this arrangement. They could only conclude that he was a vicious bastard who enjoyed seeing others embarrassed. Now everything is ready. After exiting the guild building, Han family young master said, Little Ray, you can continue with your quest. All right. You guys can do it. Xiaolei did not say anything. He did not ask anything and immediately left. He wasn't Brother Yu. He would rather bury his head in his thoughts and speculate on his own. He didn't want to get involved in a fight like this. He could see both sides as friends, but they weren't close friends. How could he have the nerve to earn money from friends who were close to him? Making money from both sides was what Little Ray wanted. He didn't want to rely on either side. Now it's up to us. Do the 300 bosses know each other? Han family young master asked. Not yet. Everyone was ashamed. Then let's form a team if you know each other. So it was a mess. This person knew that person didn't know this person, they knew this person, but they didn't know that person. The young master of the Han family couldn't stand it anymore, and shouted for them to stop. He then pointed at Shui Wuyue and said, You find 8 more people. Each person will pick 29 people that you are familiar with and form a team. Then there will be 30 people left? Shui Wuyue said. Can you give me the remaining 30 people, Math King? Han family young master rolled his eyes. Shui Wuyue coughed up blood again. Over and over again, he was the one who was being looked down upon. Han family young master's method was effective. A person and the people that they were familiar with were often in a circle of friends. If there weren't enough, then a few more people would join in. After an introduction, they would get to know each other quickly. It was better than knowing 100 people in one go. However, at the end of the selection process, the remaining 30 players were in an awkward position. Previously, during the selection process, the players who were selected would also recommend and introduce themselves to each other. Those who remained unselected were truly invisible characters in the guild. Very good. Right now we have 10 teams with 30 people. But don't think that 30 people is a lot. Before you make a move, look at your opponent. If it's Qianli, please shout for help and report your position. If I'm nearby and have a chance to rush over, then we will have a chance. If I can't, then please go around or die. Middle fingers everywhere. If it's Sword Demon, surrounding him is useless. His skills are enough to assassinate a 30-person encirclement. The smart way is to grasp the distance of his skills and set up a double-layer encirclement. I will explain this distance in a bit. Remember, even if you are a heavy armored warrior, don't try to block his charge. This time, there were no excessive words. Everyone seriously memorized it. If it's Yutian Shenming, use the street terrain to circle around a few times. He will get lost and then assassinate him in stealth. If it's a 7-person team, contact the nearest team and have the 2 teams surround him. Pay attention to the coordination between their warriors and mages. If you see a woman, please remember that there are no women in our 300 people, so they are not people that you need to curry favor with. If they are opponents, please treat them seriously. Chapter 729. The Han family young master's deployment was very detailed, but the people in the rosy clouds, led by Waterless Moon, had no idea what to do. There was a big difference in this confrontation. Although they were supposed to be a 30-man party, Little Ray's Bar was only a level 1 guild, and the upper limit was 50 people. Therefore, after being evenly divided into 10 parties, each party only had 5 people, and one party only had 4 people. This was something the party leader had paid special attention to when selecting the party members. In actual combat, only these people could launch attacks. The others were still neutral players. Once they attacked the defending players, the system would treat them as aggro targets and eliminate them. In this way, although there were 30 people in the party, only 5 of them were attackers. As for the other 25 people, the clerics were the most useful, followed by the knights. As for the other classes, they did not know how to cooperate in this situation. No one had ever played like this before. However, because the commander was the Han family young master, they would rather die a few times than ask him for advice. Therefore, this problem was discussed separately in the party channel as they dispersed. Where else could they find such a person who was Amethyst? The Han family young master had already answered this question. These people would appear wherever there was a quest. Now that the 50 people in the rosy clouds were also defending players, they could also receive quests. Therefore, everyone just had to pay attention to the NPCs that had quests nearby. In the end, the 9 parties left just like that. The remaining 30 people were very depressed. Not only were they left, but their party leader was also the Han family young master. Misfortune never came alone. However, no one knew these 30 people. They were probably quiet and introverted characters in the guild. Therefore, although they were unhappy, they did not show it on their faces. They stood quietly in front of the guild building, ready to listen to the Han family young master's arrangements. Alright, the main purpose of our party is to complete guild quests. Han family young master finally said. What? The 30 people were stunned. Currently the guild is at level 1. Our goal is to rush the guild to level 2 in the shortest time possible, and increase the upper limit of 150 people. Currently we only had 50 attackers. In the beginning it wouldn't be a problem, but once the opponents realized our existence and started to gather together, 50 people would be a bit of a problem. Therefore, upgrading the guild to rank 2 is very necessary. Han family young master said. But only 4 of us are from Little Ray's Bar, someone said doubtfully. Han family young master nodded. I know. 30 people will be split into 4 teams, which happens to be for all class teams. The quest will be taken by 4 people. Choose the fastest and most efficient one. It's only a level 2 guild, so it won't be too difficult. The person in the rosy clouds nodded. What he said was true. Guild leveling up was similar to player leveling up. The further a guild went, the more EXP it required to level up. Of course, what a guild needed to level up wasn't called EXP, but guild prestige. It was mainly obtained by completing guild quests. And what limited the speed of high-level guilds leveling up was that it required too much prestige. It was very tiring to rely on repeated miscellaneous quests. Secondly, there were only so many guild quests announced in the guild building every day, and the guild quests with high rewards couldn't be accepted repeatedly. Every day, the system would randomly refresh the quests within 24 hours. In this way, whether or not a big guild could snatch a quest depended on a certain amount of luck. There were also some quests that didn't limit the guild's level. In reality, small guilds didn't have the ability to complete them, but they still snatched them. Because of this, big guilds posted many posts on the forums to express their condemnation, but most of the guilds still didn't do it. Even if they couldn't complete it, they would just accept it. Some time ago, a small guild in a certain city was exposed. No one knew if this guild's luck was too good or something else, but they frequently received large quests. However, they didn't have the ability to complete them, nor could they afford to hire people. In the end, the guild received 27 large quests that big guilds yearned for. This matter was later exposed by a member of the guild that quit, and the big guilds in the main city were all furious. They stifled this small guild to this day, and requested the system to take measures against this kind of bad behavior. The system also expressed great concern, and promised to introduce some new measures in the near future. The guild's leveling up had been accompanied by a history of countless blood and tears, and now it was heading towards a dull path. All the guilds that were on the right track had set a limit on how many miscellaneous quests each guild member had to do every day. Relying on this method, at least the guild could ensure that it wouldn't stagnate. As for large quests, they still had to rely on luck to obtain them. But at this time there were only 3 guilds in Cloud City, so there wouldn't be any competition for guild quests. The 30 elites from the top guilds could accept some difficult quests with great rewards to complete. In this way, it was indeed a very easy and quick matter to raise a level 1 guild to level 2. Otherwise, they would have to rely on miscellaneous quests. This guild wasn't their own, it was just a temporary setting. Doing miscellaneous quests was a disgusting thing that the players might not be willing to do. Han family young master clearly explained all of these aspects to the 30 people. When the 30 people heard this, they really felt that leveling up to level 2 was a very easy matter. Then they entered the guild building to take a look. As expected, quests were issued as usual. Many of the large quests were hung there without anyone to accept them. This caused the players from the big guilds to drool. They all fantasized about how great it would be if colorful Cloud City could do quests at this time. Let's hurry up. Han family young master stopped the 4 people from fantasizing and told them to hurry up and choose their quests. In this aspect, the 4 people were very familiar with this. Under the large list of quests, the 4 of them chose the 4 with the highest cost-performance ratio. Then, they seized the time and went to accept their quests. Players without guilds couldn't accept quests, but that didn't stop them from completing quests. However, these guild quests might not be completed in the city. For neutral and city-defending players, entering and leaving the main city wasn't difficult at all. Gu Fei and Fireball were able to easily sneak out of the city. The entire city wanted to kill Qianli drunk, but unfortunately, drunk Qianli had walked in front of many people countless times. No one could remember him at all. Players in the parallel world didn't have the ability to take pictures, take screenshots, or record videos. No matter how amazing a person was, they were only legends. If you wanted to know what he looked like, you had to see him in person. At this time, the major guilds in Cloud City who hated Qianli drunk had a genius idea. They wanted to find an artist to draw Qianli drunk's appearance and show it to the entire city. But then they thought about it. They might not remember it even if they took a look. If they wanted everyone to draw it, the artist's hand would definitely break. So, this genius idea was temporarily put on hold. After leaving the main city, Gu Fei contacted Slender Waist Dance. Fireball was very excited, but of course, Gu Fei's thoughts were different. Gu Fei didn't give up. He still wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop, so he wanted to investigate. After Slender Waist Dance told him the coordinates, Gu Fei and Fireball headed over. Cloud Suburb Farm, a low-level leveling area. There were a few neutral players currently leveling, but the most eye-catching was the large patch of cabbage in the middle of the farm. The guild leaders stood in an orderly manner with cabbage, each one of them standing out from the rest. Gu Fei took a quick look. The security was really tight. The guild leaders were in the circle with cabbage. Outside the circle, there were 400 tigers and wolves. They were the elites of the 4 major guilds, and they were like tigers looking at their prey. Gu Fei circled around and didn't find any openings. Fireball didn't look at the guild leaders. He only cared about the question of where's sister? Where's sister? Slender Waist Dance finally appeared. From this, it could be seen that Slender Waist Dance wasn't as arrogant as Gu Fei. At least she and Lower Willow were in stealth, unlike Gu Fei and Fireball who were swaggering around. Too arrogant. Slender Waist Dance saw that Gu Fei wasn't even hiding, so she immediately revealed her true form. After looking at him with disdain, she said happily, "I've mingled a little closer with Xiao Lu and listened. Out of 10 people chatting, 8 of them were scolding you. It's a lot of pressure," Gu Fei expressed. But there really isn't much of a chance here. It was rare for Slender Waist Dance to admit defeat. "I think so too." Gu Fei nodded. Gu Fei and Fireball didn't fight monsters. They just circled around cabbage and attracted the attention of the 400 men. At this moment, the 2 of them stopped. Then two people appeared from stealth and whispered to each other. It was too suspicious. Slenderwaist Dance didn't change her equipment like Gu Fei. Her fiery red thief attire was very eye-catching. The 400 men started to get suspicious. When they saw this girl's beautiful figure, they suddenly thought of someone. Fuck, it's Slenderwaist Dance. Quick, send a message. Assassins are coming. The news quickly spread among the 400 people and was reported to the 4 guild leaders. The 4 guild leaders then told the other 700 guild leaders. The guild leaders were all excited. They all stood up and wasted countless cabbages in an instant. The 400 guards had been lonely for a long time. Although they knew that the other party was Slenderwaist Dance, they weren't afraid. They had already discussed how to deal with the assassins. At this moment, they saw that the 4 of them were still plotting. They felt that they should surround them and kill them in one fell swoop. But the disadvantage of choosing the Cloud Suburb farm was now on their heads. The field of vision was too wide, so they couldn't act secretly. After forming a few teams, Gu Fei and the others noticed that they were about to scatter. They noticed us. Let's go, said Wuxia. Okay. Gu Fei nodded. He didn't want to continue fighting. He didn't look down on normal players. He believed that after suffering so many losses at his hands, they wouldn't create conditions for him to achieve the miracle of 1 against hundreds. The 4 of them ran. Slenderwaist Dance was the fastest. She turned and disappeared. Gu Fei was second. He teleported and jumped from time to time. Wuxia was a commoner, but he wasn't that slow. After all, he was a thief. Fireball was in trouble. He was a great mage with a weak body and short legs. His robe hung on the ground and he left a hole with every step. Soon his companions were gone. Fireball cried and immediately sent a message to Gu Fei. Brother Zue, I can't escape. Oh, then die. Gu Fei was calm. You're not loyal. Fireball cried. It's not like you can't live after you die. Gu Fei was very rational. Fireball was depressed. How regretful. He suddenly thought of a joke. A parrot and a pig took a plane together. The parrot was very manly and arrogant. He scolded whoever he saw and had a sense of existence. The pig was envious and imitated him. Eventually, the people on the plane couldn't take it anymore and threw the parrot and the pig out of the plane. The pig was about to fall to the ground and die when the parrot flew past him. Stupid, right? I can fly. Fireball realized that he was the pig. He followed the actions of other people. Now that he was gone, he was going to die. But pigs had pig intelligence too. He couldn't just wait for death. Fireball found a wheat field in front of him. Without hesitation, he plunged into it. The 4 targets ran away one after another. Only the mage was left and refused to run. It was as if he was mocking them. They were all furious. Now that Fireball plunged into the wheat field, everyone could see it clearly. They immediately organized people to pounce. Wait, be careful. It's a trap. The rational players would speak when there was a twist in the plot. The wheat field was half the height of a person. If a person went in, they wouldn't be able to see it from the outside. A gust of wind blew past, and the wheat field shook wave after wave. It was like the sea, bottomless and full of hidden killing intent. Everyone nodded. It was a trap. They almost fell for it. What are you afraid of? Let's do it together if there's an ambush. There were still some bold men. They called a few brothers and were about to enter. The 400 legions came from 4 guilds, and usually didn't get along with each other. As soon as there was a difference of opinion, their own guild would definitely stand on their side. The other guilds felt that they shouldn't argue in front of a great enemy. If they felt that there was no ambush, they would let them go and watch from the side. Actually, why do we have to go in? The wind is so strong and the grass is so dry. We can attack with fire, someone suddenly said. Attack with fire? Everyone knew how to use fire when they played games. Today, someone actually brought up the concept of fire. Everyone was reminded of the glorious era of the 3 kingdoms. Yeah. Who cares if there's an ambush or not? We'll go with the wind and put fire in, someone said confidently. That seems like a good idea. Many people started to support it. Fire, fire. More and more people started to respond. Everyone started to get busy. The mage's fire skill burned mana. It was different from natural combustion, so it was less effective as a lighter. Everyone took out the fire tools in the game and stood in the direction of the wind in the wheat field. They looked forward attentively and waited for the order. Light! With a shout, the players all started to light up. However, the life knowledge of the game's otakus was lacking. How much water did these naturally grown plants contain? Even if the wheat field looked yellow, it wasn't withered. Wasn't it a joke to want to light it up with a match? A bunch of people started a fire, but none of them lit it up. The most powerful one only burned a few wheat ears. The magnificent scene of a single spark starting a prairie fire didn't appear. We need a stronger fire source, someone said. Thus, some people went to gather dry wood and withered grass. However, most people didn't move because they suddenly felt that they were doing something that would humiliate their intelligence. Fireball didn't stop at all in the wheat field. It followed the waves of wheat and practically crawled across the wheat field. When it came out, it looked back and was stunned. The players from the 4 big guilds were all on the other side of the wheat field. It didn't know what they were doing. Why wasn't anyone chasing after it? What are you waiting for? Let's go. Another person suddenly came out of the wheat field. Fireball jumped in fright and was about to attack when it suddenly realized that the person who came out was Gu Fei. Brother Zue, why are you here? Fireball said. Bullshit, do you think I'll just leave you here? Gu Fei said. That's weird. Why aren't they chasing after me? Slender Waist Dance also came out of the wheat field. When they saw Fireball enter the wheat field, they immediately came over to help. In this environment, they could carry out a lot of good assassinations. However, they didn't think that the players from the 4 big guilds would stop outside the wheat field. They didn't chase after it either. Gu Fei could only chase after Fireball with regret. They probably recognized me, Gu Fei said. Yes, it must be. Fireball immediately flattered. Slender Waist Dance vomited. Where's Little Willow? Fireball always cared about girls. They're waiting up ahead. Let's go. After Gu Fei said this, the 3 of them left. At the other end of the wheat field, an archer finally noticed the situation. They're over there. Aya, we let them escape. Damn, there's no ambush in the field. They're just bluffing. We fell for it. They're too cunning. Everyone found a way out of this embarrassing situation. No one mentioned the fire attack again. Everyone returned to their original positions. When a guild leader asked, they all proudly replied, We've successfully chased the assassins away. Don't worry, as long as we're here, they won't have a chance. Gu Fei and the others left Yunjiao Farm. On the way, they discussed if there were any opportunities to take advantage of, but they didn't find anything. After a while, they arrived at Yunjiao Lake. Fireball was very excited. Everyone, in order to avoid any disgusting misunderstandings, let's clearly split into 2 groups. Brother Zue, you and Big Sister she will be in one group, and Little Willow and I will be in the other. Are you sure you want to do this? Gu Fei asked. Yes, definitely and definitely, Fireball said. What if we fight? Who's going to protect you too? Gu Fei asked. Don't worry, Little Willow, I'll protect you with my life. Fireball didn't care if they were familiar with each other or not. Save it. The 4 of us will go together. Gu Fei said while holding back his urge to vomit. Fireball didn't manage to get the 2 of them together, so he was very sad. Yunjiao Lake was always like this. It looked calm on the outside, but inside, it was full of passion. As usual, Gu Fei reminded everyone to be careful not to step on people. Then, he led everyone to the small wooden house. Guild leader. They're here, they're here. Damn, I've been waiting for so long. They're finally here. Gazing Sky, who had been lying in ambush by Yunjiao Lake for a long time, and his subordinates were very excited when they saw Gu Fei and the others finally appear. But there's only 4 of them. What's the use? The subordinate was confused. Don't forget, this is Qianli's drunk. Gazing Sky had high hopes for Gu Fei, because he could only hope for Qianli's drunk. Other than him, no one else would come here to ruin the mission. Gazing Sky's plan to fish in troubled waters was all on Qianli's drunk. Chapter 730. Look, it's that small wooden hut. Gu Fei introduced the ultimate goal of this trip to the other three comrades. Brother Zui, do you think there's danger here? Fireball looked around. Definitely. Gu Fei nodded with certainty. The information that Skygazer under the tree sent to him clearly showed that there were people from Rosy Clouds interfering here. Moreover, the Han family young master was currently mingling with these people. With his methods, how could he not take advantage of this opportunity? There was also Skygazer under the tree, who was pretending to be a good person. Although his guild was small, his ambition was huge. He actually dared to steal food from the big guilds like Singing to Wine and Rosy Clouds. Who knew where he was hiding? Little Willow, there's danger here. Hurry and grab my hand. Fireball solemnly said to Willow. The three glanced at him. Willow laughed. Don't worry, I'm not afraid. Really? But I'm very afraid. Give me some strength. Fireball said. I'll give you a kick. Do you want it? Gu Fei said. Fireball was becoming more and more impudent. You brat, do you want to die? Slender-Waist Dance didn't want to give him face anymore, and asked with a serious expression. Fireball finally realized that there was no end to it and hurriedly explained. No, I saw that the atmosphere was a bit tense, so I made a joke to let everyone relax. Since you don't like it, then I won't do it next time. Everyone took a deep breath. Fireball's shamelessness was another way of doing things. It was truly shameless. All right, let's get down to business. Gu Fei said. The reeds here are so tall, it's too easy to hide people. We can't even tell how many ambushes there are. Willow analyzed the situation. Maybe we're already surrounded, Gu Fei said. It's hard to tell who's friend from foe. Who knows if the people hiding in the bushes are men and women exchanging feelings? Fireball was finally able to say something decent. Just in case, just use magic to clear it out. It's not like we'll lose anything if we die. Slender-Waist Dance was actually quite self-centered and didn't really care about people unrelated to her. I don't think so. Gu Fei couldn't do such a thing in the end. Ouch. Fireball suddenly shouted and quickly turned around. Something's wrong. The other three immediately turned around, but there was nothing behind them except the lush reeds. Fireball pointed at the back of his head and asked, Did I get hit by an arrow? No, the three of them said. Then what hit you? Fireball was confused. It looked down and found that there was really something. A ball of paper fell under his feet. Fireball picked it up and found that there was something wrapped in the paper. He quickly opened it and found that it was a stone. He studied it carefully, but couldn't see what kind of weapon this stone was. Maybe it was someone, accidentally, Wuxia said. After all, this was a gathering place for love. Men and women were flirting and throwing things at each other. It was possible for them to accidentally hit a fireball. Wait, the paper in your hand. Gu Fei realized something was wrong. Fireball's attention was completely on the stone. When he heard Gu Fei's reminder, he quickly picked up the paper and looked at it. The paper wasn't blank. There were circles and crosses drawn on it, and they didn't know what it was. Fireball looked at it from side to side, but couldn't understand it. He passed it to Gu Fei and said, Take a look. Gu Fei received it and looked at it. He was also a little confused. He couldn't make out anything about the Slender-Waist Dance. Instead, it was Wuxia who reacted first. He pointed at the square filled with a string of numbers and said, Look isn't this the small wooden hut? These numbers are from the coordinates. Oh. Everyone looked at the coordinates under their feet, and then looked at the small wooden hut. Other than Yutian Shunming, who had no sense of direction, the others could more or less see the direction of the wooden hut. As expected, the coordinates were similar. I understand now. These circles and crosses refer to the layout around the wooden hut. Look here, there's a side note FS3. It roughly means that there are 3 mages here. Here is ZS4. There are 4 warriors. DZ is a thief, MS is a priest, and QS is a knight. These are all commonly used class abbreviations on the forum. Wuxia finally understood this piece of paper. Fuck, so it's to give us information. Who's so kind? Fireball was surprised. Under the tree looking at the sky? Gu Fei guessed. He couldn't think of a second possibility. Or maybe it's fake. Wuxia said. We'll know if it's real or fake once we try. From our current position, there will be an ambush in this direction. However, there aren't any classes marked, so maybe the other side didn't investigate too clearly. I'll go take a look. Gu Fei said. What about us? The other three said. You guys hide here for now. Looking at this map, the other side has quite a few ambushes. We'll have to use this reed bush to move quietly. Gu Fei said. Brother Zui, hurry up and go. Fireball nodded. I'm going. Gu Fei picked up his sword and bent over like a cat. He hid his body in the reed bush and headed towards his target. Apart from the small wooden house's coordinates, there weren't any other coordinates on the paper. After all, the paper wasn't big, and there wasn't much that could be written on it. Even if it was an ambush, there might be some errors. Gu Fei could only make a rough guess based on the direction. If there were 3 to 5 people lying in ambush, he wouldn't be afraid even if he ran into them. Fireball, who was left behind, was very excited. He didn't get a chance to be alone with a man and a woman, but now he had to hide in the reed bush with 2 women. Which man in Yunjiao Lakeside could be as elegant as him? If it wasn't for the fact that they didn't have any information, Fireball really wanted to reveal his current situation to a mortal among the flowers. However, because he had just been threatened, Fireball didn't dare to rashly tease him. He could only fantasize about it for now. In the end, he heard Slender Waist Dance say to Wuxia, There are many opponents, so we should be careful. Yeah, let's go into stealth, Wuxia said. Slender Waist Dance nodded, and the 2 girls went into stealth together and disappeared. Hey! Fireball panicked when he saw that he was the only one left. What are you shouting for? He's next to you, Slender Waist Dance said in the air. Do we have to go into stealth? Fireball cried. Even if he had 1,000 girls by his side, it wouldn't make any difference. Safety first, don't argue, Slender Waist Dance said. Then what do I do? Fireball said. If you have nothing to do, then dig a hole and bury yourself, Slender Waist Dance said. Wuxia also let out a light laugh. Fireball was depressed, but he really had nothing to do, so he just laid down on the ground. Alright, I'll dig a hole. Gu Fei approached his target, and approached, and approached. Then he felt that he had already gone too far, too far, too far. No, there weren't any ambushes on the map, but Gu Fei didn't have the ability to recognize coordinates like the Han family young master did. He felt that he might have gone astray, so he changed his direction. This time, he went towards a place where there were more people. Gu Fei believed that even if he went the wrong way, he would still be alerted, so he started to move in this direction again. Closer, closer, and closer. Over and over and over. Gu Fei walked around again, but there was still no one. He felt that something wasn't right. He was already very close to the small wooden hut. Even if the information was fake, the people lying in ambush should have noticed him. Why was there no movement at all? Gu Fei immediately sent a message to Slender Waist Dance and the others. How are you guys? This is a bit strange. What's strange? Slender Waist Dance and the others were fine. The hole that Fireball dug was knee-deep. I walked around, but there's no one. Even if the information is fake, there doesn't seem to be an ambush, Gu Fei said. Should we come over? Slender Waist Dance asked. Gu Fei hesitated. He was only good at fighting alone. Now that he had formed a 4-man team, Slender Waist Dance, who had no ideas, asked him, how would he know what to do? Let's wait. Gu Fei could only reply like this. He carefully looked around again, and suddenly noticed the hillside behind him. Yunjiao Lake wasn't a lake in the plains, but was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. When he first came here, Yutian Shinming attacked from the hillside. Since they were on the same level, the reeds were a good cover, but what if they were on the hillside? Not good. Gu Fei didn't forget that a certain divine weapon was still in the hands of the Han family young master. The binoculars, something that shouldn't have appeared, had played a crucial role in the battle countless times. Hiding in the reeds like this might not be easy to detect from afar at level 30, but now, the sharpshooters had eagle eyes, and the Han family young master had binoculars. Once the 4 of them entered Yunjiao Lake, they would be noticed. Then, Gu Fei would move alone, and with the binoculars, it would be enough for him to track them. The ambush on the paper wasn't necessarily wrong. However, the map was dead, while the people were alive. The enemy clearly knew Gu Fei's movements, and could make adjustments. Perhaps even the person who drew the map didn't think of this. You guys go first. Gu Fei hurriedly sent a message to the three. What's wrong? The three asked. We might be surrounded. Gu Fei replied as he cast a spell. He guessed that there were ambushes everywhere, so there shouldn't be any lovers. However, after casting the spell, the surroundings were still quiet. Gu Fei couldn't believe this situation. What was the enemy doing? Was there no ambush, or was he enduring? Without any hesitation, Gu Fei ignited 1,000-layer flames of the flaming tree that he had just thrown. Following that, his men also stood up from the reeds and stared at that area. There was no movement. There was still no movement. There was no white light of death. And there was no white light of healing from the priest. Was there really no one? Was he thinking too highly of himself? The enemy didn't even think of ambushing him? However, what was with this paper? Could it be a prank? While Gu Fei was at a loss, Wang Skyward and the others were unusually excited. They've made their move. They've finally made their move. Wang Skyward and the others cheered. They were really proud. The plan was going perfectly in the direction they had planned. They had to get this valuable mission back. With the information we leaked, I believe that Qianli's drunk can at least give them a surprise attack. Everyone has the advantage of being in the reeds. In comparison, Qianli's drunk has the advantage. Haha, think about it. Hiding in this forest and launching a surprise assassination. Who can resist? Beneath the tree said while looking at the sky. But how do we get the mission back? One of his subordinates asked. Pay attention to Qianli's attack route and find a chance to get close to the small wooden house. The mission is currently in the hands of someone called 30 Li away. I've already made arrangements. Once you come into contact with the NPC in the small wooden house, immediately give me a signal, and I'll inform them to take action. After killing 30 Li away, the mission will reappear. Immediately accept it, and use the teleportation scroll to leave. We'll come up with another plan. Wang Skyward's arrangements were very thorough. Qianli's drunk was just an excuse to create chaos in the small wooden house. After all, with their abilities, they really didn't have the ability to get close to the small wooden house with such defenses. As for the mission 15 kilometers away, this person had taken it. This was no secret in the colorful clouds, and peering into the sky easily found out. There was already a mole in singing against wine, and he was currently 15 kilometers away. Once the mission was completed, the mole would risk exposing his identity and kill the person 15 kilometers away. Wang Skyward calculated in his heart. He felt that it was foolproof. He just had to look forward to Qianli's performance. However, after Qianli's drunk used 2 fire spells, the battle seemed to have stopped. Wang Skyward was puzzled. He hurriedly contacted the spy in rosy clouds. What's going on? Haven't they already started fighting? I'm not sure. I'm not there. The order wasn't given through the guild channel. The spy replied. Something doesn't seem right. Wang Skyward's intuition told him that something was wrong. The ambushing rosy clouds was unusually calm. It seemed like everything was under control. Guild leader hide. Someone suddenly pointed above his head. Wang Skyward looked up. The heavenly fire wheels were gathering. He hurriedly dodged. He was even more shocked. Had he been exposed? Guild leader, you're really infatuated with this mission. A person walked out from the reeds. Wang Skyward looked up. He didn't recognize the person, but the guild badge on his chest was obvious. Someone who sings while drinking? Under the tree he was startled. Yes, we're here to kill you. I believe you won't have any objections, right? As the person spoke, he rushed towards Wang Skyward. Wang Skyward wasn't hesitant. He made a prompt decision. Retreat. With this order, the pitiful soul below the tree suddenly huddled together. One of them opened a teleportation scroll. However, because of the circle of people outside, the singing wine players didn't notice. The teleportation was not interrupted. After soul below the tree lost 2 people, the teleportation circle was activated. The remaining people disappeared instantly. Only then did the singing wine players react. Fuck! The leader was depressed. They didn't suffer any losses if they died during the city war. Was this really necessary? He actually wasted a teleportation scroll to escape. Of course it was necessary. That was because Singing Wine had already made arrangements at the nearest resurrection point. As long as Wang Tianhe teleported back, he would die 25 times without any suspense. Wang Tianhe had also expected this, so he definitely could not die this time. What's going on? Wang Skyward, who had completely escaped, was furious. He roared at Singing Wine's spy. Singing Wine had made such arrangements. Yet he didn't receive any information. The spy cursed in his heart. He wasn't the guild leader. How could he know everything? The bribery incident made Singing Wine understand that there were definitely soul below the trees people in the guild. Now that they were going to deal with soul below the tree, they had to be careful when choosing people. He hadn't reached the point where Countercurrent trusted him 100%, so he was naturally excluded. On the Cloud Suburb Lakeside, Gu Fei had been observing his surroundings. He saw that a battle had suddenly broken out in a corner. However, the location wasn't where Slim Waist Dance and the other two were, so he didn't know what was happening. However, a battle had already broken out over there. He believed that the situation around him wouldn't be much different. Gu Fei waited for the other side to make a move, but it was still so quiet. Is there anyone here? Gu Fei couldn't take it anymore and openly challenged them. If there's no one, I'm leaving. Gu Fei said. I'm going to complete the quest? Gu Fei walked towards the small wooden house. Boss, don't be rash. Fireball and the others heard Gu Fei's shouts. You three go first. Take a detour and go up the hill to the west. I suspect there are eyes there. Gu Fei said. Looks like we can't leave. As soon as the message arrived, Gu Fei turned his head to look. AoE spells were spread out towards the three's location. The reeds shook violently. It was obvious that the three were doing their best to dodge. Gu Fei hurriedly moved over to help them. As soon as he moved, the other side finally made a move. The sky turned red in a split second, and hot air rose from the ground. The other side's spells instantly formed a circle with a radius of 30 meters around Gu Fei. This was the limit of a mage's attack. So that's how it is. Gu Fei finally understood the other side's method of ambush. The other side had been silently making arrangements. They didn't plan on using close-range attacks at all. The 30 meters of empty space was a place of death for Gu Fei. At this time, the mages started moving. The archers also showed themselves and shot homing arrows at Gu Fei, who knew how many spells were stacked on each piece of land. With a familiar friend like the Han family young master in the enemy's formation, Gu Fei believed that these stacks were enough to instantly kill him. Apart from teleporting 30 meters, was there any other way to escape this predicament? The fire wheel was descending, and the fire tree was rising. Fireball let out a particularly mournful scream before dying. Slim Waist Dance and Lower Willow were only relying on their speed to support themselves. Gu Fei could only try his best to run in one direction. But no matter what, he couldn't run out of 30 meters before the spells appeared. Everyone was about to celebrate when they saw Gu Fei suddenly stop and crouch on the ground. Lightning Palm. Gu Fei had already condensed a lightning palm in his hand while he was running. At this time, the instant the other side's spell was about to reach him, he suddenly hit the ground with the lightning palm. The lightning palm had a repelling effect, but the ground couldn't be repelled. At this time, the only one who would be repelled would be Gu Fei himself. This was Gu Fei's plan. He didn't know whether it would work or not, but he had no other choice at this time. Lightning flashed, dazzling in the sea of fire. Gu Fei's body was instantly lifted into the air, flying backwards. Chapter 731. As long as Gu Fei was around, there would always be something that the players couldn't imagine happening. At this moment, there was a flash of lightning on the ground, reflecting off the flames. Gu Fei flew out diagonally, first escaping the attack of the flaming tree's 1,000 layers flames. Then, a few heavenly fire wheels brushed past his body, but it wasn't enough to instantly kill him. The tracking arrows from all directions turned and slid towards the horizon. heading straight for Gu Fei. Although Gu Fei hadn't been killed by the heavenly fire wheels, he didn't have much HP left. He didn't dare to be careless and unsheathed his left sword and right sword, shooting down the first few tracking arrows. The tracking arrows behind him were a bit slower than the ones Gu Fei had been sent flying by Thunder Palm. They wouldn't be able to catch up to him for a while. The players hiding in the reeds all had their mouths wide open as they watched Gu Fei inconceivably jump out of the sea of flames. But Gu Fei had borrowed the power of Thunder Palm to propel himself into the air for as long as possible, avoiding the flaming tree's 1,000 layers flames on the ground. This skill couldn't push him back too quickly. At this time, Gu Fei was about to hit the ground. A circle of mages was already prepared and quickly set fire to the area like a soldering iron, vowing to turn Gu Fei into ashes as soon as he hit the ground. In the end, Gu Fei used instant movement the instant he hit the ground. The row of mages were happily waving their staffs in the reeds, when they suddenly felt their vision darken. The silhouette that had been 6 meters away had suddenly appeared in front of them. Gu Fei had already kicked out with both of his legs, sending 2 mages tumbling on the spot. Using the 2 mages as his footing, he dashed forward another 2 meters. At the same time, without turning his head, he swung his sword to the left and sword to the right, shooting down 2 tracking arrows that were flying towards him. Bomb, keep bombing. No one knew who shouted it, but the mages didn't hesitate to continue casting their AoE spells, including those who were close to Gu Fei. They didn't care about themselves anymore, and were prepared to die together with him. It really is that guy's style. This kind of unscrupulous behavior was the trademark of the Han family young master. Gu Fei had expected this, so he didn't run towards the slender waist dance. On the contrary, Gu Fei's jump brought him into the center of the ambush. He was running straight towards the small wooden house. From the start of Gu Fei's run, the Thunder Palm reverse strike, the leap into the air, and then instant movement to trample over a person before continuing to move forward. Everything had happened in the span of a few seconds. Many of the tracking arrows could not keep up with Gu Fei's agility. At this moment, not only did they not close in on him, they were even lagging behind. The speed of the tracking arrows was not fast to begin with. As long as he had the time to strike first, Gu Fei was confident that he could shoot down all of them. He dashed into the wooden house. At least the spells wouldn't be able to hit him anymore. He didn't expect to feel heat under his feet as soon as he stepped into the house. There were already a few mages hiding in the house. Fuck! Gu Fei couldn't help but curse. The Han family young master might not know how Gu Fei would escape at this time, but at least he didn't underestimate Gu Fei. He also calculated that Gu Fei could escape from this kind of desperate situation. He also predicted that once Gu Fei could escape, the small wooden house would be the only place he could hide for a while. Other places wouldn't be able to stop the AoE spells from spreading. Die! The mages shouted in unison, waving their staffs. In the end, Gu Fei stepped on the wall and flew up. In one step, he landed on the table in the corner of the room. After landing on the table, he stepped on the wall again and leaped up again. His body was horizontal, and he actually rolled to the roof. Acting like Spider-Man? Some of the mages complained, but then someone realized something was wrong and shouted, "Not good." There was no chance to salvage the situation. The room was only so big. The spells of the mages were enough to cover the whole room. They were ready to die together with Gu Fei, but Gu Fei jumped a few times and stuck to the ceiling. The mages were shocked to find that Gu Fei's position was even higher than the fire wheels. It took some time for the fire wheels to form. If he touched the fire wheels during this time, would he be hurt? Some bored people had tested this question before, but the conclusion was no. As for Gu Fei, he took advantage of the fact that the firewall had yet to solidify to jump over the ceiling. Gu Fei wasn't Spider-Man, he couldn't hang on to the ceiling, but he had timed his descent to the maximum. The moment he passed through the fire wheels finished condensing and fell to the ground. Gu Fei's descent was slightly slower, perhaps less than a second, but at least he was slower than the fire wheels, so he didn't suffer any damage from the fire wheels falling from the sky. At least there's still the fire tree. He'll fall eventually. The mages knew that they were definitely going to die. This was the only hope they had before they died. In the end, when Gu Fei was about to fall, he had already kicked the wall and flew above everyone's head. Using their shoulders, Gu Fei was in the air. Damn, the player who was stepped on was of course unwilling. He struggled and wanted to get rid of Gu Fei. But in fact he didn't have to work so hard. All his spells were activated, and he was instantly burned into white light. Just before he disappeared, he felt a force on his shoulder. Mary's neighbor. Before the mage died, he saw Gu Fei use his shoulder to jump again. The 1,000 flames of the flaming tree only lasted 5 seconds. Did this guy want to challenge gravity for more than 5 seconds before landing? The mage wanted to know the answer, but unfortunately he was already dead, along with his comrades. When everyone appeared at the resurrection point, they asked in unison, "Is he dead?" No. They couldn't get the answer immediately, but the answer was no. Gu Fei borrowed the mage's shoulder and jumped again. The roof wasn't that wide. For such a simple wooden hut, the beams were rather exposed. This time, Gu Fei locked onto his target. He grabbed the beam with one hand and hung in the air. Then his left and right legs flew out, and the tracking arrows that were chasing after him were kicked away by Gu Fei. 5 seconds passed quickly, and the flames on the ground were extinguished. Gu Fei let go of his hands and feet, and it was even easier to deal with the tracking arrows. Gu Fei heaved a sigh of relief. There was only one entrance to the hut, and he felt that he should be able to hold the fort. Could these guys tear down the hut? He didn't know if the system would allow that. In any case, he was already here. Why not finish the quest first? Gu Fei wanted to talk to Gilgino, but when he glanced back, he saw that Gilgino's face was charred and smoking in the corner. It can't be? Hey, are you dead? Gu Fei yelled. Could this NPC be attacked? How could he be burned to this state? What a weak NPC. Not yet. The weak NPC replied weakly. It's good that you're not dead. The guard sent me. Gu Fei hurriedly continued the quest. This NPC looked like he was ready to die at any moment. But before the NPC could say anything, a string of flames suddenly appeared at the window. Gu Fei quickly twisted his body to avoid it, and a string of fireballs shot into the hut. At the same time, several fireballs also shot into the hut. It's over. Gu Fei used all his strength to escape the sea of fire, jump over the magic circle, and shoot down all the tracking arrows. But at this moment, several fireballs were thrown in, and Gu Fei suddenly thought back to a long time ago. It was when he had just joined the child elite group. His first quest was to assassinate the great thief Suitu. Gu Fei vaguely remembered that the Han family young master's arrangement at the time was to trap Suitu in a small hut, and then have the mage throw fireballs into the hut to kill him. Because fireballs had a burst effect, it had a small area of effect damage. In such a small hut, there was no way to dodge. Tracking arrows, Gu Fei could shoot down. Fireballs, Gu Fei could extinguish them. But this time it was fireballs and not just one. Gu Fei was still a human, and humans had their limits. Gu Fei knew that with so many fireballs, it was impossible for him to extinguish them all. This time, there really was no way out. At least I can complete the quest? Gu Fei hurriedly moved closer to Gilgino. The burst effect of fireballs wasn't high, so Gu Fei felt that he could still hold on for a while. Hey, I'm a member of the Cloud City Guard. As the first batch of fireballs exploded, Gu Fei shouted at Gilgino. However, the fellow was lying on the ground, not making a single sound. Gu Fei rushed over and pulled him up. Although NPCs were machines, they still breathed like humans, and sometimes they were even more human-like than players. For example, when players died, they would just flash with white light and not have a corpse. However, NPCs often had corpses. At this time, what Gu Fei pulled up was a corpse. He was no longer breathing and had no heartbeat. No way, you actually died faster than me? Gu Fei was extremely depressed. Gilgino was one step ahead of him, killed by fireballs. You actually killed an NPC? You're too cruel. Gu Fei sent a message in the mercenary channel. Huh. What are you talking about? The person who replied was unscathed in battle. What are you busy with? Gu Fei tidied up his clothes and prepared to welcome the fireball barrage to his death. At the same time, he chatted with unscathed in battle, who had the least contact with him since the opening battle. I'm busy attacking the city. Let me tell you, I also received an honor kill quest. Hehe, why don't you sacrifice yourself and let me kill you once? Unscathed in battle took the opportunity to shamelessly say, honor kill? Oh my, how could I have forgotten about that? As soon as Gu Fei set up the settings, another wave of fireball barrage shot into the room, causing sparks to fly and smoke to billow. Gu Fei was still alive. His werewolf's belt had some HP regeneration, but in this situation, the regeneration couldn't be faster than the damage he sustained. It was only helping Gu Fei struggle at death's door for a little longer. Gu Fei dashed to the door and poked his head out. It was so quiet. The reeds swayed gently in the wind, but there was not a single person in sight. But he could imagine that as long as he took a step out, there would be a formation and a volley of attacks from many people. Other than digging a tunnel, there seemed to be no other way out. A tunnel? Ha! Gu Fei's eyes lit up. He suddenly noticed the fireplace in the small wooden hut. The fireplace was connected to the chimney and went straight to the roof. Sword Demon crawled through it. It couldn't be said to be spacious inside, but at least it could hide someone. If he hid there, he could avoid the fireball barrage. Maybe there was a chance to turn the situation around? While Gu Fei was thinking, the fireball barrage continued to fly into the hut. Gu Fei saw that his HP kept decreasing, so he quickly made up his mind and crawled into the fireplace. There's a piece of paper. A quest clue? When Gu Fei entered the fireplace, he was surprised to find a piece of paper inside. Compared to the one the sword specter had picked up, it was cleaner and more complete. At a glance, Gu Fei could tell that it was a better clue. He quickly picked it up and opened it. There was a line of words on it. 1,000 miles drunk dies in this chimney. Fuck me. Gu Fei sensed something was wrong. Then he heard the sound of a rocket being launched. He looked up and saw countless fireballs flying into the chimney. Gu Fei quickly turned around and jumped out of the fireplace. The fireballs exploded in the fireplace, along with the ones that flew in through the window. This time Gu Fei's HP was finally gone. A magician suddenly screamed like an idiot among the colorful clouds. When everyone looked at him in confusion, the magician was so excited that he started talking incoherently. I did it. I've completed an honorable kill on 1,000 miles drunk. He killed him. Fuck, he really did it? The colorful clouds were silent for a while, before they suddenly burst into an uproar. Gu Fei's guess was basically right. The ambush at Yunjiao Lake was all set up by the Han family young master. He had also handed the telescope to Gu Xiaoshang, who was in charge of the West Mountain slope. The ambush had been set up for a while, but Gu Fei still did not show up. The players in the colorful clouds were obviously a little impatient, but the guild leader did not say anything. The players in the colorful clouds were very united and continued to wait patiently. At this moment, the target that they had been waiting for so long finally showed up and was successfully killed. It was a beautiful honorable kill at that. It was worth it. Waiting for so long was definitely worth it. The channel in the colorful clouds was filled with cheers, as if they had won the city war. Gu Xiaoshang was also enjoying it. Rewards from the city war? Points from the system? Of course, these were good things, but there were many ways to find happiness. Getting rewards from the system was not the only way. The rules of the system were fixed. How the game should be played was decided by the players. The rules of the game were only a reference. Those might be good, but not everyone would like it. Well done. Gu Xiaoshang praised all the players who participated in the battle. Even though some people were sacrificed, they had only lost a few people in a drunken battle with Qianli. It was a complete victory. The comrades who sacrificed themselves were also laughing in the camp, thinking that their sacrifice was not in vain. Qianli had been killed by an honorable kill. This piece of news was quickly known by everyone. After all, a majority of the players had accepted the quest to kill 1,000 miles drunk. The instant the quest was completed, everyone received a notification. Moreover, the system also announced to everyone which guild's warrior had accomplished this feat among the rosy clouds, who did not participate in the guild leaders' protection alliance, had killed Qianli by themselves. The guild leaders who had gathered in the cabbage field because they were afraid of being killed by Qianli's drunken honor kill were a little embarrassed. especially when they saw some of the people in the guild channel praise the might of among the rosy clouds. This was especially true for the 4 guild leaders. They fought back and forth and were really in the limelight. Traversed the 4 seas, piled up stones under the city, burying countless people alive. Gu Fei had completed the feat of killing 1,000 people in front of singing and drinking. Even though that was not the case at all, Unchung Mutsu was the first guild leader to be killed by an honorable kill. Black Alliance did not suffer much, so when the 4 guilds gathered, Black Index Finger was given the nickname of Survivor, which sounded like mockery. The reputation of the 4 guilds in the city battle was always in the negative. Among the rosy clouds was really in the limelight this time. Even Unsworn Sword, who was a saint of love, felt a little jealous. His guild was much stronger than Rosy Cloud Guild, so Unsworn Sword could always act like a man in front of Gu Xiaoshang. However, now that Rosy Cloud Guild had taken this opportunity to transform with each passing day and surpass all other guilds to become the number 1 guild in Cloud City, Unsworn Sword would be in an awkward position. Unsworn Sword's worries were a little exaggerated, but there was nothing he could do. It was said that people who fell in love were blind. The 4 of them sat together in silence, each with their own thoughts. After a long time, Unchung Mutsu was the first to speak. I didn't think that among the rosy clouds would actually succeed. Their arrangements are quite thorough, and they even did us a favor. Against the current was referring to the group of people who were looking at the sky under the tree. If rosy clouds wanted to take down these people, it would be as easy as lifting a finger. However, it was clear that drinking and singing would be even more persistent in dealing with them, so she gave a friendly notification to Upstream. There's something. I think everyone knows, but it's not good to say it, Black Index Finger suddenly said. The other 3 immediately understood. They knew what the Black Index Finger was talking about, so they nodded silently. What do you guys think these 300 people are trying to do? Black Index Finger asked. In theory, only among the rosy clouds and the people who quit the guild would know that 300 people had quit the guild, but all 4 major guilds knew about this, so it was obvious that they had spies in among the rosy clouds. This kind of thing was quite tacit. Even the 4 of them didn't know how many spies they had spies in between them. Admitting that they knew about this was basically the same as admitting that they had spies. At this time, there was no longer any hypocrisy, so the 4 of them discussed among the rosy clouds' actions. Outside of Cloud City, it was a scene of joy, but inside Cloud City, it was a scene of white terror. The number of reborn amethyst girls was much higher than very overpowered, so the probability of them being hit was naturally higher. The girls didn't have much PvP combat power, so they were all easily taken down. In total, 8 girls had been killed. According to the girls who were killed, there were only 2 or 3 people who attacked them, and they were quite strong, so they were killed in 2 or 3 moves. Some of the girls were even surrounded by system guards, but the guards didn't respond at all. The people in among the rosy clouds were naturally a bit smart. They didn't reveal their full strength right from the start, and when they saw that it was just some weak girls, they could just go up and take them down with 2 or 3 people. 8 of the girls had already died, but no one knew that the other party was a team of 30 people. However, the fact that the guards didn't respond meant too many problems. July quickly contacted Sword Demon to discuss this matter. They're not coming for you guys, they're coming for us, the players who are defending the city, Sword Demon said. Chapter 732. But when a girl in our guild was killed, there were guards around her. She said that the guards didn't react at all. The other party isn't neutral, July said. It's also a city guarding guild, but they want to go against us? The conditions to become a city guarding guild were so obvious. Sword Demon, of course, immediately knew that it was Little Ray's side and immediately sent the message. Little Ray was wandering around the city at this time. He originally wanted to continue his mission to clean up the battlefield outside the city, but then he received a message from Han Family Young Master, warning him not to leave the city easily from now on. Little Ray asked why, and Han Family Young Master told him 2 words: honor kill. Gu Fei and the others were very familiar with this phrase, but Xiao Lei had never interacted with them in this aspect before. He had no choice but to let the young master of the Han family give him a rundown. and then he understood everything. As soon as Little Thunder's tavern was established, it immediately appeared on the Resurrection Camp's leaderboard. Unlike siege guilds, Little Thunder was ranked in the top 100 out of more than 800 guilds. Currently, there were only 3 siege guilds, so no matter how they were ranked, they would always appear on the leaderboard. As soon as Little Thunder appeared on the leaderboard, it was immediately discovered by players. As a result, it attracted a large number of players to research it. Some players who had never received Gu Fei or Sword Ghoul came to accept the quest to assassinate Little Thunder. Compared to Gu Fei and Sword Demon, Little Ray had an unparalleled advantage, and that was that everyone in Cloud City knew Little Ray because he was a tavern owner. Usually, Little Ray's bar was known to everyone. Even players from outside the city would pay a special visit, let alone local people. In Cloud City, Little Ray was definitely the most familiar player, which made the players who received the mission to assassinate him very confident. At least this time, he was a guy who could be recognized at first sight. After understanding all this, of course, Little Ray did not dare to leave the city again. He could only dig for missions in the city again. Fortunately, after the establishment of the guild, he had a new identity, and a large number of new missions appeared, so he was not lonely. However, he also knew that some situations that should come would come sooner or later. In the city, Little Ray met a girl who was reincarnated as Amethyst. The girl warmly and friendly greeted this legendary character, but when he turned around, Little Ray saw the players among the rosy clouds come out and kill the girl. In the end, she also warmly and friendly greeted him, the so-called guild leader. These days were not good. The killing among the rosy clouds had already begun. Little Ray knew that Sword Demon would definitely come to him. Sure enough, at this time Sword Demon finally sent him a message, asking him about the establishment of the 3rd City Guarding Guild. It's already very obvious, isn't it? Little Ray really didn't know how to deal with this situation at this time. He had thought about it for a long time. However, it was clear that he established the guild, accepted these people, and gave them a pass, but he wanted to completely disassociate himself from this relationship. Little Ray felt that his hopes were a little too naive, so although he thought about it for a long time, he couldn't think of any answer. Well, I just want to ask one thing. Is it Han family, young master? The kind Sword Demon seemed to understand what position Little Ray hoped to occupy in this matter. Yes, it's him. Sword Demon's only question. Little Ray also couldn't avoid it. Okay, I understand. Sword Demon said. You guys can do it. Little Ray felt that he was really a bit annoying. You also have to be careful. Sword Demon said. Oh, Little Ray didn't understand. We are now opponents. Sword Demon said. Oh, Little Ray understood. The tree may long for peace, but the wind will not stop. He already had this identity. Wanting to disassociate himself from this confrontation was too much of a fool's dream. Even if he didn't participate, he was still carrying the name of the guild leader. If the other side considered the problem from a confrontation point of view, they would quickly make a move on him, the guild leader. After Sword Demon finished asking Little Ray, he quickly looked for Gu Fei to discuss the matter. Gu Fei was depressed at this time, very depressed. He had already returned to Cloud City Mage Academy. Honor kill, which was equivalent to dying 15 times, plus the previous 2, he had died 17 times. At this time, the system defined him as seriously injured, and he needed to rest in the resurrection camp for 15 minutes. What was more annoying was that the broken note was still in his hand. Gu Fei had just crumpled it into a ball and thrown it away when he received a message from Sword Demon. In a message, he had already quickly explained the current situation in the city to Gu Fei. I was also tricked by him. Gu Fei was depressed. Oh, Sword Demon and the others hadn't received the news yet. I was just killed by an honor kill, Gu Fei said. Damn. Then how many more times can you die? Sword Demon quickly asked. Don't be nervous. It's only been a total of 17 times. There are still 8 more times I can die, Gu Fei said. How was it set up? Sword Demon asked. Gu Fei simply said it, and Sword Demon was very sure. It was his doing, especially that note. Let's not talk about that. Did you just say that Gongzi has also entered the city? Gu Fei asked. Yes. This is a heaven-sent opportunity for revenge. I'll first go to all the major taverns to search for him, Gu Fei said. The problem is that 8 of the reborn amethyst girls have already been killed by them, Sword Demon said. Wait for me to go out and get revenge for them, Gu Fei said. Sword Demon felt that he was looking for the wrong person to discuss with Gu Fei. This person's thinking was relatively simple and direct. Kill, kill, kill. Kill them all, and then it'll be quiet. Sword Demon turned his head to discuss with July. How are the girls now? I mean for everyone to gather first, including our people. The other party is a newly formed guild with at most 50 people. As long as we gather together, we won't be afraid of them. Then we'll move together and search the city, Sword Demon said. Okay. July agreed with this decision. Everyone gather as soon as possible. Be careful if you encounter unfamiliar faces, Sword Demon said. Understood, July said. The girls were relatively weak, so Sword Demon was more worried for them. On the other hand, everyone on against the Heavens side had a bit of strength. If they encountered 2 or 3 opponents, Sword Demon felt that they had the strength to deal with them. However, 3 or 2 people was very likely just a cover. The other party had a total of 50 people, or maybe even more. This question could actually be asked to Little Ray, but Sword Demon didn't. At this moment, he reminded against the Heavens group that there was such a group of bandits. He also told everyone to quickly gather, pay attention to unfamiliar faces, and try to walk towards the place with the most guards. The other party had at most 50 people. Even if there were others, they would definitely be neutral players. Then the system guards would be a powerful reinforcement. Sword Demon calculated. After receiving Sword Demon's message, everyone knew that the enemy actually used this method and discussed excitedly. Jiannan Yu's group of 7 was a group that valued benefits, so they expressed that they didn't understand this kind of behavior. Both sides were guilds that defended the city. If they killed each other, it would be equivalent to both sides suffering heavy losses. In the end, it would allow the other players to take advantage of the situation. Jiannan Yu's group of 7 would definitely avoid this kind of guild that benefited others. Now, there was actually such a group of pure people among the siege players. They didn't care about their own gains and losses, and were willing to sacrifice their own rewards for the benefit of the other siege players in Cloud City. So noble. I'm in awe, Jiannan Yu said in the channel. No one knew if he was being serious or just being sarcastic. Respect my ass. They actually dared to attack beautiful girls. This group of scum hooligans, lowly scum. I will definitely uphold justice on behalf of the Heavens and wipe them out. Yutian Shunming fiercely expressed his determination. Yutian Yu Jinx. Blackwater, the bandit of Jiannan Yu's group of 7, was extremely depressed. Yutian Shunming was condemning the other party's tireless attack on the girls, but in the next second, Blackwater encountered this group of bandits. Blackwater was very experienced. He saw that there were 2 people in a defensive stance, but after taking a few steps, he looked at the surrounding terrain. This was definitely a place for an ambush. These 2 people were probably just a distraction, right? One of the 7, who was always careful and never rash, immediately gave up on the idea of fighting the 2 and chose a small alley as an escape route. We found a target that isn't reborn amethyst, reported the hunting team among the colorful clouds. Class. The commander was, after all, Han family young master. Rogue. Let's start with him. Control his movements. Han family young master gave the order to the group that discovered the target, and quickly contacted another group to make arrangements. We can start now. Once everything was in place, Han family young master gave the order. Blackwater kept running, but he didn't manage to escape. There were always 2 archers that were as fast as him chasing after him, but they didn't attack. The group of 7 had a lot of experience in escaping from pursuers, but Blackwater was helpless at this moment. Firstly, there were no players in Cloud City. It was an empty city, and he would be very conspicuous no matter how he ran around. Secondly, Blackwater wasn't from Cloud City, so he was very unfamiliar with the terrain of Cloud City. He didn't know where the terrain was suitable for him to escape from, so he could only run and observe. The players among the colorful clouds were born and bred in Cloud City. They also realized that the target they were chasing was very tricky, and they almost lost him a few times. Fortunately, with their familiarity with the terrain, they managed to catch up to him. Good job. The players among the colorful clouds complimented as they adjusted their position according to Blackwater's movements. However, it was useless for an expert without luck. Blackwater ran everywhere, and tragically ran into a dead end. Fuck. Dead end, this is bad. Blackwater cried in the channel. It's just one death, don't be so useless. The other 7 players in the channel felt that Blackwater was losing face. Not good. Sword Demon suddenly realized something. Everyone go to the Rogue Union. What's wrong? Someone quickly asked. We'll be killed. Sword Demon finally realized this problem. During a city war, the respawn point wasn't safe. If players on the same side really wanted to fight amongst themselves, they could kill each other at the respawn point, respawn, and kill each other again. Everything became extremely easy. Moreover, because the offline area wasn't safe, even if they wanted to go offline to escape, it was very likely that they would be interrupted. Fuck. How far are you from the Rogue Union? Blackwater's face was full of tears. Try to hold on for as long as possible. Sword Demon said. There's no way out. Blackwater saw that the other side had already caught up. His judgment was right, the other side wasn't just 2 people. There were 7 people in front of him, and they had the same class as the 7 of them. Hold on. A bunch of people cheered for Blackwater in the guild channel. How can I hold on? It's not like I'm Qianli. Blackwater helplessly fell down. He wanted to hold on, but the people from the rosy clouds were also experts. Blackwater was in a dead end, and had no room to maneuver. He gritted his teeth and wanted to drag one down with him, but the other side had a priest. This small wish couldn't be achieved, and Blackwater was hit by a white light. Blackwater didn't have time to open his eyes to look at the world. When the white light brightened up his gray world, flames suddenly ignited on his body. Sharp blades, arrows, and the world turned gray again. Blackwater was indignant. He knew that what Sword Demon was worried about had really happened. The other side had foreshadowed this in the Rogue Union. There was no doubt about their goal. Killing 25 people in a row and kicking them out of the battle, this was their goal. What was the treatment of the players who were kicked out of the battle? Now that the players had figured it out, the players who quit the battle would become the Walking Dead. They were different from neutral players. Neutral players could actually join the battle. Although there wouldn't be any rewards, at least they could create a sense of existence. However, the players who were killed 25 times in the battle couldn't. They were forcefully sealed by the system and couldn't affect the battle. They couldn't communicate with the players involved in the battle, and they couldn't step into the battle area. They would be cleared to a resurrection area that wasn't a resurrection point in the city or a resurrection camp outside the city. If one wanted to contact them, they would have to go through a lot of trouble. The lively players gave this group of pitiful people many nicknames, such as 4th-class citizens, corpse players, District 15 people, and so on. Save me. I don't want to be a 4th-class citizen. Although Blackwater resisted unyieldingly, it was all too late. Sword Ghoul and the others couldn't make it to the Thieves' Guild in time. And Blackwater couldn't fend off the ambush either. Again and again, Blackwater was cleanly killed 25 times, becoming the first player to die in battle. Blackwater? Blackwater suddenly lost contact. Previously, he was still crying in the channel. Jianan Yuki sent him a private message, but he received a cold reply from the system. At this time, if one wanted to contact Blackwater, one had to first contact a neutral player in the city, then this neutral player would contact a neutral player outside the city, and then this neutral player would contact Blackwater in the 15th resurrection area. Jianan Yuki didn't have the conditions, so he didn't know if Blackwater was dead or alive. Go to the Bandit Guild immediately and kill these animals. Yutian Shenming roared in the channel. The person who went is probably not here anymore. Sword Demon maintained his calm. Did everyone see what they did? It seems like we are their official target. At least, they didn't do this to the Amethyst girls. Everyone gather quickly. We can't be left alone again. Damn. I'm in trouble. Another member of the group of 7, Paladin Invincible Lucky Star, was retreating from the road to the Bandit Guild. When a group of unfamiliar faces suddenly appeared, Invincible Lucky Star knew that he would soon see Blackwater. Oh, only one person on the road to the Bandit Guild? What a pity. This wave of attacks led by Han family young master instantly eliminated 2 very overpowered players. And they were both quite strong, but they were still a little dissatisfied. I think they're about to gather now. Waterless Moon said to Han family young master. Yes, that's for sure. Let them gather. Everyone gather at the guild building, 1 person per mission, and try to get the guild to level 2 in one wave. Han family young master said. Understood. Everyone gathered at the guild building. Also, there's another piece of news. Cloud Lakeside has completed the killing of 1,000 miles drunk. Han family's young master said to everyone. Wow. We did it. So cool. The 300 people cheered. As they were all inside the city, they couldn't communicate with the attacking players outside the city. They could only communicate through neutral players. Han family young master used this communication device to maintain communication with Gu Xiaoshang and the others outside the city. Don't be too happy yet. Our test has only just begun. This means that Qianli Drunk has already returned to the main city. 8 times he still has 8 chances to die. Before he's kicked out of the city war, we don't have the advantage. Now hurry up and come back to level up the guild. Han family young master called out. Back in the Mage Academy, Gu Fei finally made it past the 15-minute mark. During this time he received another message from the Sword Ghost, informing him that Blackwater and Lucky Star had been eliminated from the guild war in such a manner. Gu Fei hurriedly made his way to the place where everyone was gathered. He had hoped to bump into a few people along the way, but unfortunately there were none. Against the Heavens and Reborn Amethyst had gathered together. Their expressions gloomy. Reborn Amethyst had lost 8 girls and didn't dare go out on quests anymore. Against the Heavens, 2 of them had even been turned into corpses. Clearly, this was the enemy's true goal. I didn't bump into those bastards. See how I'll take care of them. Yutian Shenming was filled with righteous indignation. He was really angry. Everyone calm down. Now isn't the time to fight. Think about what to do. Sword Demon said. Gongzi, what are you doing? You're also neutral right now. Why are you still following them to cause trouble for us? Sword Demon, call him over to our side. Yutian Shenming said. Sword Demon smiled bitterly. He knew that person too well, so he didn't waste his breath. He patted Yutian Shenming. Don't treat him as a friend for now. Friend? I'm not friends with him. Watch me kill him. Yutian Shenming said angrily. Sword Demon smiled and didn't say anything. He turned his gaze and saw Gu Fei's figure appearing on the street. He was alone, walking on the street without any disguise. Only he would look like he was asking for a beating. Mr. President, 8 girls in the guild were attacked. What do you think we should do? As soon as Gu Fei came over, a girl immediately went up to him. Which 8? Gu Fei asked. 8 girls raised their hands. Gu Fei nodded. Team up with me. Let's go back immediately. Butterfly knot. A bunch of tangled people will be tangled together to fight. Let's welcome this glorious tangled moment together. Chapter 733. Don't be impulsive, let's discuss it first. July immediately came up to dissuade him. I was just joking. Didn't you notice? Gu Fei asked. I didn't notice. July said angrily. Everyone was silent. Gu Fei's joke was hidden too well. It was really hard for people to notice. We don't know how many people they have, their movements are unknown. We can't find a place to attack. Brother, you said. The guild building. Sword Demon said. Oh. Everyone looked towards Sword Demon. As a neutral player, it's impossible for them to attack us inside the city. They'll be hunted down by the guards. The limit of a beginner guild is 50 people. If he wants to threaten us with only this number of people, I don't think he's that naive. Currently, There is no competition for guild quests in the city. It is quite easy to rush to a second-rank guild. The limit of a second-rank guild is 200 people, so there are at least 200 people who can join a guild at any time and become the defenders who won't be controlled by the guards. Apart from that, priests, knights, and other support professions don't need to join a guild. They help the defenders recover health, so they won't attract the aggro of the guards. In a 200-person team, the priests will usually have 30 to 50 people, adding on the support of the knights. The other side has at least 250 people, so I estimate that the other side should have 300 people. Sword Demon said. Why 300? Knights and priests don't need to have 100 people. Brother, you said. Because that guy likes round numbers. Sword Demon replied. Fuck. Everyone looked down on Han family young master's eccentricity. The wave of attacks just now, on the surface it looks like they have already started to attack us, but the real goal is to make us not dare to split up. If we gather, our vision will stay in one place, and they will take the opportunity to split up and do guild quests to quickly rush to second rank. If we split up, they will continue to attack us. Sword Demon said. Then what do we do? Brother, you asked. We should also split into a few strong teams. What does everyone think? Sword Demon said. That's the only way. Everyone nodded. They couldn't split them all, and if they didn't split them at all, they would only be able to watch the other party carry out the quests comfortably. Thus, they could only form a few teams that could contend with the other party. Sword Ghost was very experienced, so he quickly divided the troops into groups. He split up the extremely powerful people and grouped them with the girls. After all, the girls' combat abilities were on the lower side, so they could only be stacked with numbers. In the end, a total of 5 teams were formed. Yutian Shunming, Jiannan Yu Yunxiang July, and himself each led a team. Slender Waist Dance isn't back yet? Gu Fei noticed Wuxia and Fireball during the process of calling out the troops, but he noticed that Slender Waist Dance wasn't there. Yes, the two of us died. Sister, she didn't die. Wuxia said. Impossible, right? Stronger than me? I can't even run. Gu Fei said as he sent a message to Slender Waist Dance. Stop being stubborn. Hurry up and come back. There's an event in the city. What are you rushing me for? Gu Fei didn't receive a reply from Slender Waist Dance, but he unexpectedly heard her voice. Everyone turned around and saw Slender Waist Dance coming out from a small alley. Hero, how did you end up like this? Gu Fei immediately went over. Slender Waist Dance was in a sorry state. Not only was she dripping wet, her hair and clothes were covered in mud and grass. She seemed to be trembling as she walked. I swam out of the lake, Slender Waist Dance said. What a talent. Gu Fei couldn't help but praise. He really couldn't escape because he didn't know how to swim. I'm so tired. Slender Waist Dance swayed as she walked. You swam through the entire lake? Gu Fei asked. Pretty much, Slender Waist Dance said. Is agility useful in the water? Gu Fei asked. Slender Waist Dance was startled. She didn't expect that there would be a question like this. She really didn't pay attention to this. At that time, she was too engrossed in swimming. Fortunately, stamina decreased very slowly in the game. Otherwise, she would have sunk halfway through. Why do you have to go so far? How fast do you come back after dying? Gu Fei said. I don't want to die as many times as some people. I still want to play a bit more in the city war. Slender Waist Dance said. Gu Fei was extremely depressed. He was the #1 assassin in the city defense army, but he was also the overlord of the dead. Apart from the already eliminated Blackwater and unrivaled Lucky Star, no one else had died more times than him. Right now, there's a quest that no one else can do besides you. Gu Fei suddenly said to Slender Waist Dance in a serious tone. What quest? Slender Waist Dance hurriedly asked. Warrior, Thief, Archer, Mage. Go to all 4 revival points and give the coordinates to the teleport scrolls. Gu Fei said. What is this? Why am I the only one who can do it? Slender Waist Dance didn't understand. Who has more teleport scrolls than you? Gu Fei said. Fuck. Slender Waist Dance was furious. Hand over all the scrolls. Gu Fei yelled at Yutian Shenming, Brother Yu, and Sword Demon. Gu Fei had used up all of his teleport scrolls, but he knew that after getting rich from the efficient leveling method, the mercenary group had gotten quite a few of them. He probably still had some left. The three of them had quite a collection. Sword Demon had 4, Yutian Shiming had 5, and Brother Yu was the best. He still had 8 on him. At this time he didn't hesitate to contribute. Slender Waist Dance cried. Who said I have the most? I only have 3 right now. You guys are the rich ones. Really? Then hurry up and take them. Including you, there's a total of 20. Each revival point has 5. You have to be careful. There might be people lying in ambush at the revival point. Gu Fei said. Then you're going? Slender Waist Dance felt that Gu Fei was looking down on her. There are other places where I'm needed. Gu Fei's gaze was deep. Don't you have any shame? Slender Waist Dance looked at Gu Fei in disdain and left. The teams have been divided. Then let's go. July said. Where are we going? Sword Demon was at a loss. Aren't we going around to catch opponents who are doing quests? July said. No, we're going to attack the guild building. Sword Demon said. Attack the guild building? July didn't understand. Sword Demon sweated. The girls' thoughts were quite simple. The other side went to do quests, and they wanted to chase after these people who were doing quests? It's like this. Sword Demon hurriedly explained. Since the other side is doing quests, they will definitely return them. Therefore, the guild building is the only way they can pass. Actually, as long as we defend here, we won't have to worry about not meeting them. Although they have the advantage in numbers, before the guild is promoted to level 2, their attack power can only be 50 people, so we don't have to worry at all. However, the guild building is very important. The other side will also know this, so at this time, the people who are going out on quests won't be the main force. The real main force will still be guarding the guild building. What we need to do now is to defeat this group of people, occupy the guild building, and use this place as a foundation to completely cut off their development. Sword Demon said. The reasoning was very simple. After Sword Demon finished speaking, those who didn't understand also understood. If there's no problem, then hurry up and go. Sword Demon said. This was a real team action. Even Gu Fei followed the speed of the organization and didn't rush forward alone. Even though he felt that it was enough for him to charge into the fray alone, Gu Fei's heroic sacrifice at Yunjiao Lakeside was still fresh in his mind. Gu Fei wouldn't forget the pain so quickly. If Sword Ghost could think of it, Mr. Han would also think of it. The guild building wouldn't be filled with players standing around waiting for them to attack. There would definitely be ambushes waiting in the dark. The girls had never participated in such a serious team battle. They were infected by the atmosphere and all of them were exceptionally serious. This was different from when they played against each other. At that time they were all sisters. Everyone laughed and played together without any burden. But now, with Sword Demon and the others, the girls at least didn't want to be a burden, so they were much more serious than when they played against each other. They all carefully listened to the team's command and no one laughed. Haha. Why isn't anyone talking? Killer Gu Fei couldn't stand the silence. In the end he was met with angry gazes. Gu Fei could only quickly shut up. What do you think young master's ambush will be like? Gu Fei asked Sword Demon. I can't really describe it verbally. Do you know the layout of the guild building? Sword Demon said. I'm not sure. Then I can't say. Sword Demon said helplessly. Okay, then just kill as you please. Gu Fei said. And you can do whatever you want. Sword Demon nodded. He believed that with Gu Fei's strength, he didn't need to be limited to any tactics. The guild building was already in front of them as they spoke. It looked like there was no one there. Everyone sighed at the slyness of Han family young master. He was all in the dark. Yun Xiang, lead the team to the guild building from Southeast Victory Avenue. Do you know how to get there? Sword Demon began to arrange as he walked. Understood. Yun Xiang accepted the order and led the team to the front. Yutian, your team will enter from Guild Plaza 2nd Street. Sword Demon didn't ask if Yutian Shiming knew. He turned his head and instructed Luo Luo, who was in the same team as Yutian Shenming. Luo Luo, you lead. Luoluo smiled and nodded. Yu Tianxinming's poor sense of direction wasn't a secret, but he still argued. I can find this way. July, your team will enter from 4th Street. Sword Demon said. Okay. July nodded and led the team in a different direction. Danan, you guys aren't too familiar with the terrain of Cloud City. Just follow this direction and don't move. You guys may become the target of the opponent's attack. Hold on. Sword Demon said. Don't worry. Jiananyu was actually the most outstanding team commander out of all of them. Even Sword Demon hadn't commanded a team in a long time in the parallel world. Qianli, you can go to 2nd Street by yourself. Gu Fei was an expert among experts as he formed his own team. Which is 2nd Street? Gu Fei asked. However, he just didn't know the name of the street. He wasn't a poor sense of direction. Sword Demon described it, and he immediately understood. Our team will go to 3rd Street. Sword Demon turned his head and said to his team. 5 teams and Gu Fei walked towards the guild building. There were constantly teams that quietly changed paths. In the end, only Jiannanyu's team was left. They walked on the widest street outside of the guild building. It was called Guild Street. It led straight to the guild plaza, and across the plaza was the guild building of Cloud City. Although Jiannanyu didn't know much about the terrain of Cloud City, ambushes were his strong suit. Guild Street was very wide and had a wide field of vision. There weren't any good places to ambush. The situation on the plaza was the same. From the looks of it, if the opponent wanted to ambush them, they could only hide on other streets. Sword Demon's arrangement was to go to the plaza to attract the opponent's ambush while they would surround them from the back and attack from the inside and outside. Pay attention to anti-stealth. Jiannanyu said to the players beside him who had anti-stealth. They couldn't set up an ambush in the plaza or on Guild Street, but there would always be thieves in stealth. Jiannanyu thought to himself. However, when they were about to reach the plaza, the anti-stealth players didn't report anything. Everyone, how's your situation? Sword Demon sent a message to the teams. No abnormalities. No one. No one. Everyone spoke in different ways, but the meaning was the same. They didn't find anyone in the streets they walked on. Something doesn't seem right. Sword Demon was suspicious. Stop moving forward and observe. Sword Demon sent a message to the teams. He walked on the 3rd Street of the Guild Plaza and didn't find any ambush. There were 6 streets that led directly to the plaza outside the guild building. There were no barriers on the plaza. If there was an ambush, it would have to be in one of these 6 streets. However, the 5 teams and Gu Fei each walked on one street and didn't find any ambush. Could it be that Guy's arrangement is deeper and the ambush is still behind us? Sword Demon was shocked when he thought of this. Facing a familiar opponent was a very troublesome matter. I guess what you think, you guess what I think, I guess what you think, and you guess what I 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 think. Furthermore, it wasn't that the further you guessed, the better it would be. Humans had only reached the 2nd step, so it wouldn't be right for you to follow the 4th step that you guessed. They were 2 familiar opponents. Whoever could achieve this would be able to seize the opportunity to win in the confrontation. That's what Sword Demon did. Endless guesses? He could also continue guessing, but he believed that the Han family young master could do the same. Therefore, that guy would definitely not continue guessing like this. He would use the simplest method to make the Sword Demon guess nothing. However, the Sword Demon felt that he had also thought of this, so he used the most primitive method to crack it. It seemed to be a simple basic design, but for these 2 people, this was the most complicated design that they had come up with after going around in a big circle. However, the Sword Demon didn't find an ambush. If an ambush appeared behind them, it meant that the Han family young master's guess was 1 level deeper than his turn around and fight. There was no need for that. Rather than that, it was better to quickly occupy the guild building. Occupying the guild building was the real first move. This additional arrangement by the Han family young master seemed to have deviated a bit from the theme. The Sword Demon thought and quickly issued an order. The teams received the message and quickly rushed out of the street, instantly meeting up in the plaza. Why is there no one? Yutian Shenming had been holding back his anger for a long time, but now it was all for naught. The sword demon didn't say anything. He vigilantly paid attention to the 6 streets, but no enemy appeared. Ambush in the building? Brother, you guessed. Impossible, there can't be so many people in the building. Moreover, the building is limited by space, so an ambush can't seize the initiative. The sword demon said. Ambush was actually a sneak attack, and the main point of a sneak attack was to seize the initiative. It was like a duel between 2 people with exactly the same strength. Then whoever seized the initiative would be in an invincible position. And the space in the building couldn't form an encirclement with so many people. In this way, the ambushers would be divided and eliminated by their team, and the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. If the sneak attack was guarded against, it could be said that they had already lost the initiative to a certain extent. The sword demon and the Han family young master were guessing each other's guesses. In fact, they wanted to guess a situation that the other party didn't expect and seize the initiative. However, the current situation was that there was no one in the guild building. The sword demon and the others seized the initiative, but they had no opponents. They didn't stay in the guild building? Brother, you said. How could this be? The sword demon couldn't figure it out. Now that they were stationed in the building, the strength of the Han family young master's team wasn't enough to compete with them. Even before, if he wanted to defend the building, he had to use a surprise attack. That was why the sword demon was so careful. But in the end, they gave up the guild building just like that. What were they planning? If they couldn't hand in the mission, the guild wouldn't get reputation. If they couldn't get reputation, they naturally couldn't level up. If they couldn't level up, with only 50 thugs, they couldn't fight with them at all. His judgment was right. The sword demon was distressed. Maybe that guy already guessed that you would think so, so he deliberately didn't do it. Gu Fei said. This isn't a matter of not doing it. They have to do it, otherwise they won't be able to compete with us. Isn't that right? The sword demon asked. I think even if they sent out 200 people, they wouldn't be able to compete. Don't we have me? Gu Fei said. Everyone knows that you're very strong, really. Jianan patted Gu Fei. After understanding the situation, his judgment was exactly the same as the sword demon's. The guild building couldn't be lost, but the Han family young master gave up so casually. What was he planning? Since they aren't here, they'll come back sooner or later. Why don't we lie in wait for them? Brother Yu suggested. Wait. The sword demon repeated. Did this guy purposely let us guard here and then delay us here, so that we can't carry out other actions? If we look at the general direction of the siege, this is also a success. At least we're pinned down here, and can't cause trouble with other players outside the city. Jiannan said. The sword demon frowned and didn't say anything. At this moment, Gu Fei suddenly said, the thin waist dance scroll is done. The sword demon's heart moved, and he turned to July. If the guild is only at the beginner level and has 50 people, what will happen if someone applies to join the guild? Of course they won't be able to join if they're full. July was surprised. How could such a noob question be raised by the sword demon? No. What I mean is, will these people's applications be kept? For example, if our guild is full and we can't accept people at the beginner level, we can keep the applications and wait until we reach level 2 before everyone can join. The sword demon asked. July actually hadn't researched this question before. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.